Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Open Discussions, where we will be discussing various topics, allowing women to understand us men and men to understand women, all in a respectful manner. With that being said, I am your host, and I will slide it over to my co-host today, and this special guest. And with him being his first time on the show, we will ask him his name. He'll give us his name, his age, and is he single or taken, and if he wants to, his ethnicity. And then we'll get into our other guest for today. All right, yeah. So
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's you now.
My name is Philip Anthony. I'm 54 years old. I was born in Chicago, and I now reside in Fort Worth. And I am single, divorced single.
Divorced single. All right, what about our special woman guest today? Can you give us your name, your age, ethnicity, and if you're single or taken?
Hello, I am Brittany Villarreal. I am, 28. I turned 29 in May, and I am single, and I'm Hispanic.
Hispanic. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. We'll just kind of get into it a little bit. We'll get right into it. So we were talking off air about open relationships and everything like that. So you said, I'll ask this. Do you feel as if you could be in an open relationship? Or do you know anybody in an open relationship? And it was the same question for you.
You want to go first?
Sure. No, I have never been in an open relationship. I don't believe in them. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in them for anybody. So I know a lot of people say things like, I don't believe in them for myself. But no, I don't believe in them. I think it causes just quite a bit of potential problems and challenges. And I think one person is more than enough, especially to deal with me. So
yeah, that's a good example. What about you? Do you know anybody, or would you ever be open to?
I would never.
Relationship?
No, I would never. I don't see the point of it. I don't wish that upon myself or my sisters or you guys. I don't see the point of it. Like, if you feel like you have to be in an open relationship with me, you're still looking. So you need to go be with somebody else because, it's just not going to work.
Well, okay, so have you ever heard the expression, I'm sure you guys have before, where don't allow your boyfriend or your girlfriend to stop you from finding your husband or your wife?
Oh, I say that every day. I think I stand by that.
In a sense, you would be open to still exploring those other options.
I would just, what do you mean? Explain yourself.
If what you're saying is true on that statement of, don't let your boyfriend or girlfriend stop you from finding your husband or wife, you're essentially still open-minded to having another person basically take you away from your husband or wife. I mean, your boyfriend or girlfriend.
No,
it's just situational.
So when I say that, like, don't let somebody stop you from finding your husband, I mean it as, like, because I only date to marry. That I'm not going to waste anybody's time. I think I had a conversation with one of my girlfriends that, like we said, I'm single. If I go on a date with someone and the first day or the second day, I'm not feeling it, I'm not going to waste your time. Like, I'm so quick to just end things. There's somebody out there that's better for me, better for you. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. And also, I'm 28 too. I want kids. I want marriage one day. But yeah, like, let's say I am with somebody for a certain period of time and we're not talking about, marriage or kids. I don't see the point of continuing. Like, if you don't see me as your wife and you're not talking about it with me within like a year or two, it's time to just move on. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense, but I think it's crazy to even say you would want to wait a year or two to even have that conversation.
Well, I'm not saying like I want to wait a year or two, but I'm saying I've heard that like within 6 months, men usually know if they want to be with their person or not. Am I wrong? Have you heard of that before?
What do you think?
Man, that's a loaded question because I think there's a lot of variables that influence that decision. The first thing
that you're here because you've been married before. So.
Yeah. So the first thing I'll tell you is my first marriage. I was married when I was 23, and I had absolutely no business being married. I came from a really bad, broken home. Had an extremely dysfunctional childhood. My parents divorced when I was 6. By the time I was 16, my dad was getting married for the 4th time. My mom had been in a series of relationships. She married one more time after my dad. But I said goodbye to a lot of steps along the way, step brothers,
That must
step
have
sisters.
really hurt.
It was traumatic.
Yeah.
It messed me up real bad. I was definitely a basket case by the time I was in high school. And I watched a podcast that you guys did the other day that was pretty heavily onto the topic of relationships. I think and it's interesting to be on this side of life now and be talking to people that are, essentially half my age. Because
Thank you for your service.
because one of the things I've noticed is that society has definitely changed in this country so much over the last 25 years.
Well, 23 is like pretty normal back then to get married,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
normal,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now it's getting older.
Yeah, the latest statistic I read said that the majority of young adults are now not getting married until they're like 26, 27, 28. And personally, I think that's great. I think that's hopefully going to get us back onto the right track, because I think the biggest problem with young people getting into marriage, and you said something off camera before we started that got me thinking about this, but one of the things I think contributes to that dysfunction in our society is that, for one thing, the frontal lobe in a male doesn't really fully develop until they're about
older.
25, 26 years old.
Really? I thought it was in the 30s.
So here's the thing about it. There are variables that kind of determine whether or not that frontal lobe fully develops. And one of the main things is what was that adult's childhood like? Because if that child has gone through a lot of trauma, one of the ways the frontal lobe develops is by consistently making good choices, using your rationale. It matures that part of the brain a lot faster. So by the time, you're 21, 22, 23, you're pretty much ready for a serious relationship or a marriage. But now, because families have been broken down so much over the last 3 decades, and kids are, in my opinion, more dysfunctional now than they were in my generation, I think the frontal lobe possibly develops even slower than what it did in my generation. But again, I'm biased because I came from that really effed up background, which is why I said I had no business getting married at 23.
Which it's honestly crazy because I looked up the statistics for it. I believe 56% of the marriages that end in divorce, the person will get married almost right after.
Really? I've never heard
within
of
the next
that.
like 3 to 5 years, they'll get married again.
Do you think it's because they don't know how to be alone?
Yes.
Ooh, that's a good
100%.
question. And do you think that stems back from more of their childhood trauma?
I think I think most problems that most adults have, especially, I'm not talking about like you have a bad season in life and you go through something, unfortunate. I'm talking about adults who make the same bad dysfunctional decisions year after year. Every few years, they're in and out of relationships. They either have a hang up where they're not willing to commit, or they have a hang up where they're just not healthy enough to be in a relationship. But because their brain has become so accustomed to just going on to the next one, think of it this way.
It's because they don't want to deal with
They
the
don't
process
heal.
of healing.
They never heal. So think of it this way. Let's say you go out today and you break your leg. Okay. What's the first thing that's going to happen? You're going to go to the doctor. Doctor's going to tell you, well, it needs to be in a cast at a minimum, probably 6 to 8 weeks. And so let's say during that 6 to 8 week period, let's say you're a football player, and you walk up to a coach on a college team and you say, hey, I've got a great kind of resume behind me as a quarterback. I'd love to play for you. The first thing he's going to do is he's going to go like this.
Look at the boot.
Talk to me next year when that cast is off.
But don't you wish that like people's traumas like showed like that in person, so you could sit there and be like, actually, no, I don't want to talk to you because look at you right now.
Maybe AI will do that for us.
But people will, we need that, because people will really hold that in and pretend to be like they're so healed and put you through the same thing that they promise you that they would never, put you through.
Absolutely.
Because they don't go through the process of healing.
So think of it this way. So you break your leg, you go and get it casted, and your doctor tells you you're going to have to be completely off of that leg for 6 to 8 weeks while the bone mends. Okay. And think of that in terms of any bone or any fracture in your body that you have to have casted. It has to go through that casting period. And the reason why is because that immobility is necessary for that bone to heal.
Yeah.
So now look at it a different way. Look at it from a perspective of somebody who's heartbroken and just out of a bad relationship and just has been broken up. Well, there is no cast. There is no prosthetic for a broken heart or a broken spirit or a broken soul, however you want to say it. So what happens is that person, because they have learned and leaned into, I get all of my needs met from this relationship, that their brain has convinced them the only way they get those needs met is by being in a relationship.
Yeah.
So they immediately, instead of healing, they take their broken, wounded soul and they walk into another relationship, and it presents without the other person knowing, because a lot of times, let's face it, especially with men, you don't see who we really are.
Especially with men.
You see my PR man.
Yeah.
You see my public relations expert trying to sell you on a relationship with me. So you don't really get to know me until we could be months into a relationship. We could be months into living together before you actually know who I am. And then you realize, oh my God, what did I do? This guy is effed up and he's got so many issues. And where did this come from? It was there all along. He just never let you see it.
Yep.
That's the hard part about the whole situation, is I feel like, oh, you showed up early. It's not early, actually. No, I thought it was. Hey, we could delay real quick so you can come on in and grab this drink. Yes, we did. You can grab a drink. Is this yours? Oh no, that's yours. Did you want another one? A little bit more?
I'm good right now. Thank you, man.
Good.
How was your drive? Long?
No.
Not that long?
Hi, I'm Lauren. Nice to meet
I'm
you.
Philip. Nice to meet you.
Hi, you're so pretty.
Yeah,
Am I
yeah,
sitting
sir.
here?
Yes,
Yes.
please sit there. Do you want yours mixed up?
No, straight.
Straight? Oh, but you want a Coke though, right? Or no?
I take a Coke, yes.
Yeah, okay. Both.
Cute.
Oh yeah, that does look nice. Oh yeah, it looks nice in the background. We should have had it on the rocks for you.
Yeah, it's my little traveling one.
So we were talking about, I guess you could say, some of the red flags that are missed early on first dates or mini dates that a woman will take with a man. And I was gonna say,
I don't think it was just first dates. It's like
I guess we were
being
talking
with
about-
someone for a long period of time and not realizing that they're not healed because
Healed
they don't
or-
show you those things.
yeah, healed, or they're putting off this, like he said, this PR image of themselves to sell you on. You should
Yeah.
be with me. You should be with me. You should be with me.
Because the first impressions are always going to be like the most crucial. So you're giving your best self as you should, right? But you don't really know somebody until like they're put in tough situations, you know?
You don't really know somebody until there is major conflict.
Yeah, in tough situations.
Until you start pushing somebody's buttons or they start pushing yours, you don't really know who they are. So once
yeah.
they're under duress and they're under stress and they're in conflict and their back's up against the wall, whatever comes out of them at that point, whether they're violent, whether they yell and they scream and they holler, they're temperamental, whatever comes out of them under pressure, that is at the core of who they are. And that's what I think a lot of people miss, because they see, you know, like you said, you see what we want you to see. And if everything's fine, you think we're a great guy, you know, and you're dealing with the new romance and all that.
well,
but as soon
yeah,
as
it could
something
be
goes
vice
wrong,
versa as well.
absolutely, 100%.
So what questions would you guys ask? And I have a couple questions too. But what questions would you guys ask to try to dig out the real person you're actually talking to?
What's their
across from you?
5-year goal? What's their family values? And like, what are their intentions?
Those questions, if you asked a guy that was 25, he'd probably tell you.
25,
I
he
probably
doesn't-
don't know.
he doesn't-
Yeah,
he
Whatever
doesn't
you
know.
want.
He could be like,
I mean, most 25-year-olds these days don't know what they want. They're just living for the
I would say
next
guys
day.
and girls 25 probably don't know what they
Yeah.
want. They,
Yeah.
they for sure don't know what they want. That would make sense as to why the statistics say more people are getting married after 30. Because maybe the first time, just because they're, you know, trying to be a little bit more methodical about their choices they're making in their partner, to maybe fix the mistake they made the first time, to not do it again. But I think it takes a lot of self-awareness to understand where you lack and what you lacked in the first relationship or the last one, to try to fix it for the next one. And
Yeah.
even then, I think it's just taking the PR away on that first date and say, hey, I went through this, and that.
That's what I do.
And I'm just kind of letting you know, so you kind of know what some of the things that I'm dealing with. And then after that, the person can be like, oh, that sounds like a lot. You know, I don't think I'm ready to have to deal with those kind of traumas on with you through that process of learning it. But even then, how many of us want to go through the healing phase alone? Nobody,
Most
right?
people don't.
Yeah, nobody does. Usually, even if you're just having casual sex in your healing phase, it's still not really healing, because that's like you said, having the cast on and still, hey, you're supposed to sit down and not move, but that's still walking around the house in your cast, but you know you're not supposed to do it. Sure, it's the same concept.
Yeah, and most people don't see themselves as ever being an issue. Like they didn't have any issues, or they don't need to work on themselves. Like I wasn't the problem.
Yeah, that's accountability.
And so it's like, no, I'm good. So they'll jump into like the next relationship, and it's the same thing. You're facing the same problems because you're the common denominator, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just really, you have to take that time to heal yourself and figure out your next journey when you want to get into a relationship. What am I going to do different? Was I not communicative enough? Did I not listen? Was I not there for the important things? You know what I mean? And then work, and then maybe the next one will be better. But I feel like every relationship is an experience to
get to the
next level of somebody. And I mean, I don't know whether we're supposed to be with somebody for the rest of our life. I don't know.
That's so hard to say.
It's so hard to say.
I don't mean to cut you off, but this reminds me of some shit that Ariel said. He said that most people either are, chasing fulfillment or they're chasing perfection. And from your point of view, it sounds like you're chasing perfection, when the way Ariel would put it is that, in order to be happy, you have to chase fulfillment and not perfection. Would you agree or disagree with what the Lone Wolf says?
Perfection. I feel like you're trying to make yourself the best person. They're your best self, right? I don't think nobody's ever perfect in relationship, in personal life, in career. You're never going to be perfect. That's an impossible thing to accomplish. But I think that people are journeys and people are experiences, and you learn from them, you grow from them, and you either grow or you don't.
Hopefully.
You're right.
Yeah,
you either grow or you don't. And whether you get into the next person and they've healed and then you traumatize them, that's on you. I mean, like, that's the energy you put out.
Wait, so you gave one question? You gave your two questions you would ask on a first date. What about you? Were there a couple questions you would ask a guy to maybe pull out his inner self and not be so PR regulated?
I feel like I like to question my non-negotiables.
Okay, so what would be your non-negotiable?
For me, I want to have kids one day. If you don't want to have kids, we're just cut ties right there. Yeah. Also, too, I love God. I need a partner that loves God, too, and is going to put God first. If you don't, I don't think you can lead me. You're not going to respect me like you should, because, whenever you're tempted, who are you going to turn to? Are you going to turn to the person that you want to cheat on me with, or are you going to turn to God to help you get through that? So that's important for me. What are some other things? Kids. Do you want to get married? Because I want to get married one day. If that person doesn't want to get married, then I don't want to waste each other's time.
Is that a non-negotiable?
So
marriage is a non-negotiable for you?
Yes.
But, okay, so what about marriage makes it so enticing to want to get married? Is that what is marriage the commitment you need within yourself to know that this person isn't going anywhere? Obviously, we know there could be divorce, but that's such a long process that we're not even thinking to that point. We're thinking of just in that micro space right there. Is that just, what is marriage for you? What is it giving to you that you're like, I need to be married? I know you said commitment, but is the marriage like putting the ring on your finger, like saying, hey, we're committed now, there's no going back?
Well, no, I don't think that, like, just because you marry someone doesn't mean that, like, you potentially can't get divorced, because people do mess up. I think sometimes, I think I seen a post one time that was like, it said something along the lines of, that relationship, sometimes you settle and it's not even like the relationship God has for you, So that's why I feel like when I was so young, I wanted to get married, and I dated for very long periods of time with like 2 or 3 different people, and I thank God that it just didn't work out, right? But for me, as far as marriage, I want to find my person, commit to them for the rest of my life, and have kids, and just, chase God together.
I have a question. So what if you met a God-fearing man, but he just wasn't willing to get married?
No, that's not.
Still no?
That's not. No.
That's a non-negotiable. So
Yeah.
regardless, he has to want kids and has to want to get married.
For me, yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like that's fine. Like, some people have their non-negotiables, and I would be like, I respect that. And then you move on, because there's somebody out there for you,
Well, we hope.
We hope, yeah.
There's
We
plenty
hope.
of people, but we hope there's somebody for you.
But, you might have your own non-negotiables, right? What are yours?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say a non-negotiable for me would be a woman that is very promiscuous and hangs around promiscuous girls.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a non-negotiable for me, because I seen this same thing. A post said, every healthy relationship, a girl will lose 2 or 3 of her best friends. But it makes sense though, because whenever you have you're single, you're doing your thing, you're more willing to tolerate what your friends do. But when you get into a relationship and you're understanding, hey, they're still out here partying, and I'm actually trying to have kids, be married, I'm on a different journey now. So those girls that I was hanging around with all the time for the past 2 or 3 years, we're not on the same journey no more.
Yeah.
So now you start
I think
talking
that's
to
I think that's a natural fade,
apart. Yeah, that's
growing
growing
apart
apart.
from friends when you get into a serious relationship, because you're obviously with this person, and like that's your best friend, right? And like that's your person. So then it's like the people that you would go out with all the time, now they're kind of like doing their thing, you're doing your thing, and it's a natural separation. And then when you get into a marriage, it's like the same thing. You start hanging out with other couples and other marriages and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
that's normal. I feel like that's very
Yeah.
normal. Yeah.
You would think that's normal. But with today's society, it's probably not as normal.
But I feel like also too, like, everyone's journey is different. Like, I know tons of people that got married at 23, 24, 25, and then I know people that go 30, So I feel like just because some of my friends like still go out doesn't mean I don't love them like less than my friends that stay at home, Like, I could love you but still not like go out with you,
I would say I have a question for both of you guys, and I'll let you go first. What is one piece of advice you could give to her because she wants to be married? I personally do not want to be married.
Oh.
Maybe my mindset will change later on, but right now I just don't see it's beneficial for me to want to get married. I feel as if...
Are you scared?
No, it has nothing to do.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with commitment, because I was gonna say I could be with you for the longest of time, give you a promise ring and everything like that, because it's more on our connection, not me giving you this ring and saying, hey, now we're married. That's me telling you we're committed. No, I should be able to communicate with you enough to let you know that your place is solidified. That just because whatever's going on doesn't mean I'm ready to leave and I'm ready to give up, because obviously I know a marriage takes 2 people. They both have to fight and put the work in, and make some compromises along the way. So what is a piece of advice you could give to her that really wants to be married?
Not really. Non-negotiable.
So
Non-negotiable.
So both
said
of you,
tomorrow.
asked when he asked you, what would some of your questions be to, your potential mate? I think they're great questions. I think they sound like, for the guy, I would be thinking that this sounds like I'm in an interview.
Okay.
And so my counter advice to that would be, yes, accept what they say. Listen to their answers on anything that you discuss, whether it's about your future or politics or religion or whatever. But I think the main thing, spend a lot of time together and watch and listen to all of their behavior, because all of your behavior, whether it's spoken, whether it's body language, all of your behavior is 100% you. So the people who say things like, oh, I'm so sorry about last night, that was totally not me.
That is them.
That
That
is
is them. I don't
100%.
care.
when they
That's
show you,
100%
believe them.
who they are.
First red flag, take it.
So spend a lot of time, and not only spend time watching their engagement with you and your friends, but if I could give anybody, just as based on my own experience, if I could give anybody experience on the things to look for, they are so radically different now than they were 25 years ago. So simple things like, how do they speak to a waitress or a waiter?
Yeah, that matters.
How, if you've got kids or you've got best friends, how do they interact with your friends? Are they controlling? Are they manipulative? Are they overly guarded with you? Do they cut you off a lot when you speak? Do they always shoot down your opinions? Do they have a man is greater than woman, kind of complex, and we're not equals, or we are equals, but I'm still a little bit better than you, or a little more important than you? Pay attention if they say they're a Christian, like with you. That is something, and I'm a Christian. I've been a believer since I was a teenager, and like not by association. Like I am a God-fearing man. Like God is my number one everything. I talk to God throughout the day. I pray. I read the Word. I worship. I mean, it's who I am.
In you, yeah.
So if they're a Christian, that gives you even a better microscope. How do they run their life? What is their daily routine? How much are they in church? Or is it just a once a month thing, or on the holidays? Do they talk to you about God? Do they have opinions about Scripture? Can they tell you things about God that you don't know? Because especially as a Christian, as a female, in my opinion, you don't want to be the spiritual leader in your household and be with a man that you're a stronger believer than he is.
That's what I told you earlier. No? Yeah.
But for the most part, I think whether it's, a Christian, non-Christian believer or not, I think you've got to pay very close attention to their behavior. If you really listen, and this is something that has taken me my whole life to learn, especially, when it comes to even social media. Whenever you're in a conversation with people, whenever you're reading a post on Facebook, whenever you're texting somebody back and forth and they just text you out of the blue, the question you need to get in the habit of asking yourself is, what does this person want me to see? What are they wanting me to see right now? They're sending me selfies constantly. What do they want? Why are they doing that? Or they say these repetitive statements all the time. Why do they want me to hear that? Because there are psychological reasons and roots behind people repeat behavior, repeat words. People send selfies. I mean, that's why social media is the way it is. But if you can keep in mind that I'm constantly going to ask myself, what are they wanting me to see? Why do they have this attitude? Why are they acting flamboyant? Why are they talking over me when I'm trying to get a word in? What are they trying to show me? Because that's where you find out who they really are. That'll help you pick apart their personality and get a really good profile on what makes them who they are.
That's real deep. What do you think, Lo? What is some advice you would give to her?
Are you single? Married?
Yeah, I'm divorced.
She's single on the rocks.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, like, now that I'm dating, for me, what I look for is consistency. But as far as when you're picking somebody or dating somebody, I should say, it's just like, how do they treat you throughout the day? Right? And how are they with you when they're around their friends? It's kind of just like almost really deciphering them when it's not just y'all two. Because he can be one way with you, and then the next way when you're around people, he's completely different. So I think it's really just observing. Like, I observe a lot of people. And because especially when I'm around new people, I will observe them because I want to know, are they even somebody I want to associate with? Right? So I really just think it's more of like observing, how does he talk to his mom? How does he talk about his mom? How does he talk about his family? How does he talk about his friends? But if you're able to really build like that friendship connection as well, that's a really big plus. Yeah.
I was going to ask, why do you think more than 50% of marriages end in divorce?
I think it's like lack of communication. I think you never stop growing in marriage. And I mean, this is just my opinion. You never stop growing, especially a woman, a man. They're always growing, right? They're trying to get to the next level in their career, or, they're trying to build their family. And whatever the woman is, but she'll never stop growth, right? For me, that's what it was. And I just think that sometimes you either grow apart or the other person doesn't want you to grow. They want you to be the exact same person that they married. And it's like, well, I'm that person, but I'm elevated. And it's like, you don't like me now because I have a bigger vocabulary, or, so you know what I mean? Like, you just grow. And so, I mean, I just think that plays a part in it.
What do you think? What do you think?
I think, and I know where you're coming from. I don't agree. I think the biggest detriment to any marriage, especially a first marriage, and especially if you're talking about, people 25, 18 to 25 and they're getting married. I'll tell you from a man's perspective that for the most part, and this is a generalization, but I think it's true, most men do not start really emotionally maturing until they're in their late 20s. Everything prior to that is the waist down. And not just that. So
no, I understand that, but that wasn't my situation.
Okay, that's why so everybody's got their own journey, but so I'm talking from a man's perspective.
Generalized.
Most men, and I think to a degree it could be, arguable that women are the same way. When you get married young, you're getting married based on your needs. Emotional, physical, financial, career-wise, family. They're being based on your specific needs at the time. The problem is, and I also don't agree that people continue to grow. I've been married to people who were refusing to grow, and a lot of the comments I got were, "You marry me this way, this is who I am."
I would hate to hear that.
That's why you have to be careful who you marry.
But so, using myself as an example, I got married early on, and I had so many needs, emotionally, physical, and otherwise, because I had a horrible childhood. Well, the more problems and the more trauma somebody has in their childhood, they are bringing those needs, those voids, those problems into your relationship. So what happens during the period of 21 when they get married and 28 and they actually start to get their shit together? And then by the time they're 28, they look at you and they're no longer attracted to you anymore. Or they no longer want to be with you anymore. Do you know why? Because for the most part, the needs that they had when they were 21, they have either selfishly learned to fulfill them in their own way, and these were things that you were giving them all along the way. So what happens when they do grow and they all of a sudden don't have those needs? And now they don't want to spend as much time with you because they're not as needy as they were when they were 21. Or they're not having sex with you as much as they used to because they don't have that sex drive that they did 9-10 years earlier. So I would say the biggest reason why a lot of marriages fail is because the more needs you bring into a relationship, the more potential liabilities there are. The goal should be, especially for a believer, in my opinion, the goal should be to find somebody who's as whole as they can possibly be when you meet them. The more deficiencies they have, the more unresolved trauma they have, the more insecurities they have, they are bringing all of that into your home. If they have issues with their parents,
but I think
you're not married to just your spouse. You're also married to their parents that they have problems with. So now you've got potentially 6 personalities living in a home with 2 married people.
Right.
Because both of them have unresolved issues in their childhood.
Yeah, but when you marry young, they're not thinking like that. When you marry young, they're not mentally mature enough to even think that way. And you're absolutely right.
That's why so many young marriages end in divorce.
Right. Yeah, because it feels good. This feels right. And sometimes it does work. Sometimes it does work out because maybe they have put in the work. Maybe, everybody's different.
It works 50% of the time in America.
You know what I'm thinking?
That's so bad though.
It's horrible.
A flip of a coin. You're gonna.
I mean, think about if you have a company with 1 million people and you say to yourself, 500,000 of these people are not going to make it.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That gives you almost no hope in a sense. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I was like, it's so hard to find somebody that you have in your head in reality. You want them to look good. You want them to feel good. You want the connection to be there. You want them to communicate with you. You want their family to be good. There's so many things that you want to line up.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find that significant other nowadays. It's just, where do you even go to look? I would say I think that more than half of the marriages end in divorce because they never talked about where they were trying to go. What is the reason we're even getting together? Like you were saying, my needs right now are, I just need a little bit of financial help. And now maybe you say that up front. Now
I just
he
don't want to
knows-
be in the dating scene anymore.
Yeah, I just don't want to be here.
I don't
Isn't
want to
that
have to pay
sad,
all the
though?
bills by myself. What's that?
That's sad.
So that's sad.
That
yeah.
is that is sad, but
I feel
that's-
like you should just stay single.
Yeah,
Like,
I
exactly.
agree.
Because
Stay
what
single.
person's gonna want to agree to that? You know what I mean?
That's
Because
what I'm saying.
it's almost
But
like
that's
you.
that's a great question. But that's part of the problem in this country
People don't
Yeah.
know how to be
is that people
straightforward.
think they have to have somebody else to be whole.
But that's why I feel like you have to ask those questions. I feel like you have to ask those questions up front because it's like, you know where my mind is. Don't fucking play with me.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah.
Period.
But but those questions don't really get asked. When is the right appropriate time to even ask that question? Is it 3 months in? Is it the
First
third, fourth
date.
date? First date?
First
I think
date.
first date, you could just be straightforward.
No.
First
Like,
date.
maybe
don't-
some of the questions, like obviously a big one would be, so do you see yourself having children one day? If
Yeah,
they
like-
say no, and you already know that no, my maternal instinct is definitely there, I want a family, then
Yeah.
that's definitely a game changer and it's a no.
Yeah.
If somebody says that, no, I'm never going to go to church with you, I'm an atheist. For you,
Yeah, it's a
that's
no.
Yeah.
it's done. We we might as well not even
And
finish our
that's
dinner.
okay though. The thing is, I'm never gonna force somebody to change for me. You know.
Doesn't work.
Well, yeah, you can't.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just like I'd rather have those tough questions and just like, oh, bye, you know, and you'll find someone that works for you. Like you don't ever want to get married, right?
I don't right now.
Right
my,
now.
My
That's-
idea could change if I meet
Yeah, it
somebody and I
can.
stay with her for 5+ years, and I'm like, you know what? I feel like I have found she fits a lot of the needs that I want, and we've talked about where we want to be in the next 3 to 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Then it makes sense. Like, for instance, I'm in a relationship right now, and I'll ask her a lot of the time. I'd be like, okay, when would you want to have kids? I'd be like, I want to give you a kid, but when would you want to have kids? I tell her too. I'm like, I'm okay with having another one, but if you don't want one, I'm fine with that as well. So I'm flexible, but I'm asking those questions so I know where her mindset is at. I'm like, do you want to have them by 30? Do you want to have it by 28? You know, if you have it after 30, you know, a lot more things can go on. So I would say, I would think it should be before 30. And she's kind of like, oh, I don't really know. And I think it's
And
on
that
her
works
end
for
too.
you.
Yeah.
I think
That
it's on
works for
her
you.
end too of saying, I want to get 5 years in and get to that point first before I actually know if I want to have a kid with you or not. Because right now she's so set on like, I don't really want a kid, but I do want one later on maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's
fine.
because it goes back to like we're saying, she hasn't found nobody to really make her think, yeah, actually, you know what? I do really want a kid now. Like that is what I want to do. I want to just not go to the club every week, and I want to just stay inside, and I want to raise a family, and I want to be a provider as a mother for emotions and everything else like that. But that's not where she's at 22, 23, 20
Yeah,
years
that's
old.
pretty young.
You're
Yeah, I mean,
like,
I didn't
I'm
think
trying to
I
have
wanted
my
that
yeah. You're
at
trying to have
22.
your best life from 18 to 24 for most women. Most
Yeah.
women are trying to have the time of their life from 18 to 24. Majority of the time. And that's what's so ass backwards about it is men don't want to have their good time until they're like 25 to 35. So it's like as soon as y'all are done having fun, we're barely starting to try to have fun.
Yeah.
And it's like that's why it's like y'all don't really
I feel like that
find the men
happens
you
when
want.
men have kids too young. Whenever they end up getting someone pregnant and like having kids and then feeling obligated to get married at such a young age, and so then they hit like, you know, 30 or 40 and they're like, whoa, I just never lived my life because ever since I was young I've just been a provider my whole entire life, you know. So
What do you say to that, Lo?
I had kids young.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
would feel like, is that a little bit of what you feel?
So my son is 20 and my other
how
son
old
is
are you? I'm like, girl,
I'm
you're, like,
37.
my age.
yeah, my oldest son is 20. He'll be 21 this year. And so, you know, they're out living their lives and it's like now I can just like you know, and now but I just want to be home, you know. It's but so it's funny cuz, you know,
I'm like, you don't want to be outside anyway.
I'm like, let me know if you need me to come get you. Because I feel like I did a little bit of my partying, but I was married for the most part. And so I got a little bit in and then I was married and then, you know, then I healed and now I'm in my journey. And then it's like, you know, I'm good. you know.
You're in your journey.
I'm like, I'm good.
I love that you went through your healing because it is so hard to go through it and have to deal with it alone.
Yeah.
You know,
But I think it's good you deal with it alone because it makes you stronger as a person, because you didn't do it for somebody else. You did it because you needed it. You grieved that loss. You grieve because it's like a death. You grieve it and you get through it and you heal and you go to your therapy. You read your books and it's like, you know what, it's gonna be fine. Yeah.
Have you guys found that your priorities change from the beginning of the relationship to the end of the relationship, or I guess further into the relationship?
repeat that question.
Do you think your priorities have changed from the beginning of the relationship to like later on in the relationship? Like he was saying before, like when you get into a relationship, you have specific needs at like 22.
I don't
but
think
whenever you're 35, your needs might be completely different.
So I got married when I was 28. He was 34.
6-year gap. That's not.
Yeah, it was 7. So 35.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
And you know, he knew what he was striving to do in his career, and I was striving in my. I think I was more ambitious than he was, and I feel like I was just always on the move. Like, what's the next thing? Like, we're gonna be great, you know. And he was like, let's slow it down.
Chill.
And I was like, no, we're gonna, you know, by this time I want us to do this. I want us to be here. I want us to grow. And he was on board for a little bit, but I think I mentally exhausted him with just like, how am I going to achieve what she's wanting to do in this family? And it wasn't like, I want this overnight. It was like, let's do it together. And I think it was like, I think we both lacked the communication on how it was going to happen. So it was like, okay, now that I can reflect back on that, we have had this conversation of like where we went wrong, and we're able to be amicable. We're able to still have conversations and just be like, you know, it's cool. But, you know, like we take full it's like, hey, I hope you're better in your next one. You know, hope you're better in your next one.
Would you say amicable? What'd you say? I couldn't say
Amicable.
Amicable.
I couldn't say it. So what do you think was some of the downfalls that led to your divorce?
I think a lot of it was me in all of my relationships. I think, you know, like I said early on, I had no business being in a relationship. Probably, honestly, not till I was in my 30s. I was just that dysfunctional and had a lot of emotional hang-ups and childhood hang-ups. And honestly, I didn't heal for a very long time. The last 2 years has been the most intensive growth in my life.
What do you? How long is a good amount of time? I know everybody's going to be different on it, but what do you think is a good amount of time to heal after a breakup? Does that depend on how long the marriage or the relationship was?
I think it depends on the dynamics. Okay. If it's a breakup due to, you know, we just don't see eye to eye, and I mean, maybe there's not even like any arguing, but we've just grown apart. We don't see eye to eye on things. We have different interests now. I don't think a lot of healing is needed from something like that, because more than likely the grieving has been taking place along the way of their spark kind of going out, so to speak. But I think when things end bad, I think when there's any form of emotional abuse, physical abuse, infidelity, major money problems with the kids, career challenges, you know, job loss, you know, things like that, all of those things together, they add a lot more time to the healing journey, I believe. And sadly, and this is just, you know, statistics more than anything, but sadly, most people do not take time, and they don't even know how to grieve. You know, I mean, it's wired in us for the most part out of our need to survive. We don't want to be vulnerable because our ego's in charge of our public image. Yeah. So I'll give you a really good example. my ex and I have a 9-year-old. And back in 2016, she's from South America. She got a call from her mom, and her dad had fallen. He's like 71 years old. He'd fallen, hit his head really bad, had to go to the hospital, was unconscious, blacked out. And a couple days later, her mom called again and convinced her to come home because there was something more serious going on. This is in 2016. So my wife at the time and my newborn baby, who was about 6 months old, they go to South America. The day after she gets there, she calls me and she says, I need you to come to Uruguay. Daddy's in bad shape. I said, I can. I've got clients. I've got a business to run. And she's like, okay, just think about it because I don't think he's going to last. And I said, well, what happened? And she said, I don't know. We're going back to the doctor tomorrow. So long story short, he ended up having, he blacked out and fell because he had stage 4 cancer in his brain. He literally had like the cancer had metastasized around his brain. There was like a 4-finger tentacle around his brain that had metastasized. So I get there. My little kid was 6 months old. He was just starting to wave. And he couldn't wave like this, so he waved like this. That was his way of waving. So I get there. I spent a little bit of time with my father-in-law. He obviously is not well at all. And within 3 days of me being there, one night in the middle of the night, my wife and I and our little baby were in bed. And my in-laws were up like talking and laughing. And I looked at my wife and I said, what are they talking about at midnight? She said, I don't know. Just go to bed. They're having fun or, talking like they always talk. I had a great marriage. Been married for 47 years. Had 3 kids. So an hour later, my wife and I are woken up by my mother-in-law screaming. And my wife runs in there and my father-in-law his breathing was really shallow. So we take him to the hospital. I followed behind in a car, like 5 minutes behind because I had to pull a car out of the driveway. Get to the hospital, and right away my wife is running up to the car, and she says, come. So I run into the operating room, and my father-in-law is like this close to dying. And the craziest thing happened. It gives me goosebumps every time I tell the story. But at one point, my father-in-law raised his hand, and he went like this.
Bye.
Like that.
And he was saying goodbye, just like my little boy was learning to say hello. And he died. Well, in Uruguay, when somebody dies, they don't remove the organs and all that. You literally, no matter what time it is, within a few hours, they take the body directly to the funeral home and the wake begins. So we're at this funeral home at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Sheesh.
My wife and my mother-in-law are calling everybody from town. So there's literally, dozens of people walking, driving to the funeral home at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's crazy.
It goes on until 12. And finally the director comes up and tells me and my wife, you guys have to wrap it up now. It's about to end. Everybody needs to get in line and walk up to the coffin, pay their respects and say goodbye. So me and my wife, are the last ones up at the coffin. And I'm standing about 10 feet away from my wife because I'm holding my little boy. And this whole time that this had been going on, this last 24 hours, my wife was doing all this admin stuff, calling people, organizing the funeral, getting clothes together. And she had literally been bottling up all of her emotion. Yep. Up until that day, I had never seen her cry. So we get up to the coffin and it's her turn to say goodbye. And she just lets out this huge wailing cry and the place is completely silent. So you just hear the vibrato of her crying and she's in Portuguese. She's saying, Daddy, please don't leave. She hadn't even begun to accept the fact that he is gone because she's pleading for him at this point. Yeah. Hours later, please don't leave. Please don't leave. Please don't go. Please don't leave. And I realized at that point that people in general, they don't know how to grieve. They don't know how to allow themselves to be in touch with that part of themselves and give themselves permission to fall apart. Give themselves permission to cry. Give themselves permission to take time off work. Give themselves permission to sit in their pain and deal with it. And I think the biggest holdback with people who go from one relationship to the next is they don't deal with that pain.
Yeah.
And so what happens is they go into their next relationship and it's like a new drug.
Right.
and it feels
Yeah.
fresh again.
It's
a
a
high.
Band-Aid.
And all they're
over
doing is they
wounds.
continue to anesthetize the emotional pain that they're not dealing with.
So how do you think are some ways people can grieve, or how can they deal with it?
I think, unfortunately, it is definitely a learning process. Again, I say I don't believe most people know how. I think a lot of people, believe it or not, probably require counseling or therapy after a really bad or traumatic breakup, because they don't know. They're not used to processing feelings. They're used to putting them on a shelf. And if they've been in an abusive relationship, they're definitely not used to opening up and talking about their emotions and talking about their feelings. And so it's a skill that has to be learned. I mean, again, it's like if you break your leg and you go home with a cast, now you're trying to figure out, how am I going to get to the bathroom? How am I going to walk? How am I going to make it around for the next 8 weeks? Well, again, going back to what I said in the beginning, if you're in a relationship, how long were you married?
7 years.
Okay, so if you're in a relationship 7 years, and it comes to an end, how long do you think it should take to heal? And did you know how? And did you know how to cry? And did you allow yourself to? Did you allow yourself to talk to friends and family or your kids or whatever the case about the fact that it was ending?
Yeah. So for me, I took a year. I did therapy. I just really looked at myself, reflected, and it was hard because he didn't want it to end, but I knew it was best for me.
Good for you.
Because
standing up for yourself and sticking to it.
Right. Because, as a woman, and especially as a mother, we naturally are maternal and we want to be there for the people we love. Right. And we tend to be like, forget our feelings. I want to make sure you're okay. And I did that for a little while. And I think the last time when it was like I was like, no, I think this is it. And I think we are just like, it needs to be over. I really stuck to it. And I really was just like, no, this is for my mental health. And not only that, but I need to be right for my kids. Regardless of what age they were, they saw what it was doing to me. And so at the end of the day, a lot of people stay in toxic relationships and marriages because of, they say, the kids. And they say, I just don't want to separate the family. Bullshit. You cannot take care of your kids properly if you are hurting, if you are crying, if you don't know how to function. How are you about to tell your kids, go have a good day? You don't even know what a good day is.
And the collateral damage to that is that all along the way, the parents think they're doing the right thing by keeping the family together for the kids. Yeah. The kids may not be able to understand everything, but the kids can feel the atmosphere in the home. The kids can feel the stress and the tension between the parents. And what they learn by living with parents who stay together just for them is destructive.
Yeah.
Because they learn, this must be what love is about. It's just, this is how it is. And they're subconsciously teaching them that this is what you do when a relationship goes bad. You just stick it out.
Yeah. And I have boys, and we have a really open relationship. We grew up together, really. And so I was like, I think it's time I walk away. And they said, shit, can you go? Let's go.
Oh, wow.
And, so they could see it.
Yeah.
They were, whatever you want to do, Mom. I'm with you.
I feel like it's because you're the mom, though. I feel like if there was always a choice and the parents were going to get divorced, the kids would almost always pick the mom. It almost just
I think it just
feels that
depends.
way.
I think it really just depends. Because a lot of kids are like, no, I don't want y'all to separate. No, I don't want you to be apart. And they're willing to see it because they don't want the family to separate. It just really, I think it's a case by case basis. But, for the boys, they were old enough to hear what was going on. They were old enough to see what was going on with me. And I think they were just like, hey, whatever you want to do, I'm with it. I was like, well, shit, we ride.
Let's go now. Let's go now. All right, so this brings me to my next question. Do you guys believe in true love?
Shit.
Well, let's just get the definition real quick. Appreciate it, Raj. True love, an unwavering and deep emotional and physical connection with a partner characterized as unconditional support and care.
I
need to read
believe in
that.
it. I don't believe that it is the norm.
True love is defined as an unwavering and
I think you can have unconditional love for somebody, for sure. I think that you can,
A significant other. Okay.
with your significant other, I think, like, you can really be in love with somebody. And that can turn into a very toxic relationship because you are like, I'm so scared they're going to leave me, and, you know, whatever. But yeah, you can definitely have unconditional love to where it's like, I don't see no other man but my man. You know what I mean? You can have that. But I think, again, I think it just really just depends on the dynamic of your relationship. If that man is fulfilling all your needs that you are asking and she's fulfilling all the needs that you're asking up until that point, I think you can just like love somebody. Sure. I think you can.
I think it takes two. Like your
For
partner's
sure.
gotta feel like you're their soulmate too. It can't just be one person being like, "Oh, you're my true love," and then the other person doesn't feel the same way. Because then at that point, it's like I have unconditional love for you, but you don't have it for me. And once you start betraying me, that's when I'm gonna have to like take that unconditional love and separate myself from it.
Well, so you're saying that both people would have to have the unconditional love?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Like,
to make it work.
You know, people say 50-50, like,
You know, I hear that men have to love you more than a woman loves a man.
Well,
Have you
that
not
one,
heard
yeah.
that? Oh, okay.
We'll ask that one right now, too.
Okay.
I've
were you
heard
saying?
like, you know, 50-50, like you do this, you do this. No, I feel like it's 100 and 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I feel like some days you're not always going to be 100. And then that person, you're significant. Like, I know you're going through something, so I'm going to pull the weight.
Yeah, so if it's...
That's unconditional
If
love.
it's 200, then it's like if you're having an off day, then I'm at 150, you're at 50. And I know, hey, today I got to help pull us. I got to
Right.
get the kids ready. I got to do this.
Because maybe you're going through something. You know, maybe your mom is sick. You know, whatever. I'm gonna pull that weight for us. Like, you don't worry about it. I got you. I got us.
But that goes back to communication and letting the partner know, hey, I know, like you said, oh, maybe your mom passed away. I know you're going through that. I'm going to be here for you. And I'm going to pull more of the weight because I know that's what you need right now. I think
Right.
it's the communication. And I
Absolutely.
think, like you said, some people don't really communicate that they're lacking, or they don't say, hey, I'm going through something. Can you help me with a lot more other stuff? I'm just going through a lot right now.
Yeah.
I feel like men struggle with that. They
Yeah.
struggle admitting that they're going through
But
something.
you know what? I feel like a lot of not even Hispanic men. I think a lot of men struggle with their emotions because they were not grown up to recognize those, to actually feel them, right? And because I feel like their fathers and their fathers' fathers were like, be a man, you know, be a man, suck it up. Why are you crying? I'll give you something to cry about. So how could they express like what's hurting them?
I mean, we can if we're trying to grow and be better for the next.
But I'm saying it
situation,
stems
etc.
from childhood.
Yes, and that's what we alluded
Yeah,
to
it
way
stems
at the
from
beginning.
childhood, and then you grow up like, no, my dad taught me to like suck it up, and my dad taught me like take it like a man.
I feel like
So
that's
it's-
not growing. Like
Right.
you said, you don't want to grow as an individual.
Exactly.
Okay, but me personally, I think it's not a bad trait to have as a guy. Because if you had a guy always in touch with his emotions, then it's like...
I'm talking about like with your partner when you are going through something, and like say you have a hard day or so you're going through something mentally, but you're just like, I don't want to talk about it. Well, obviously she can see it because you got a fucking badass attitude and you're like eating your fucking dinner that I slaved over like shit. So like, what's wrong? You know, and it's like then that's where the arguments, because you don't want to talk about it. I'm trying to get you to talk about it so we can squash it. But you're so
Prideful?
prideful.
Yeah.
But well, hold on, all right, hold on.
But maybe
Go
it's not an issue of pride. Maybe it's an issue of he doesn't have the emotional capacity.
Right. And maybe he doesn't know how to articulate it. But again, that's when you have to get out of your ego and say, I'm going through something, but let me just calm down. I'll come back and we'll talk about it.
I like how you say that, but that's hindsight, because I guarantee you every man can allude to this statement right here. We will ask you, what is wrong? I'm fine. I know you're not fine.
Yeah.
The way you said it, and I'm fine, lets me know
Absolutely.
everything. You're not fine.
Right.
So when I ask you 6 different times, what's wrong, and you still don't want to tell me, and now I'm like, all right, cool, I'm not going to worry about it no more. Because you're not going to tell me.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to,
so it's
just
vice
chill and do
versa.
my
Now
own thing.
you're with a man who
Now-
wants to articulate his feelings, and you're with a woman who don't know how.
But then you're also at the situation where she thinks you don't care now. Because you didn't want to open up to me.
Well,
and I
that's
asked
someone
multiple
who-
times.
that's
Now you're trying to
someone's
think that I
mindset.
don't care because I didn't want to keep on asking you and asking you and asking you. When I know you don't want me to keep even asking you.
Right.
You want it just to be done after the 2 I'm fines.
I think
But
that's-
you really do want me to keep asking. You just don't want me to keep asking though. Like, it's all psychological. You're just like,
Yeah.
I want him to know that something is wrong. And like, there's been times where I'll be like, what's wrong? And then they'll be like, well, you should know. I don't. How am I supposed to know? I need to know, where did I mess up yesterday, or did I just say something wrong this morning? What is it? Like, no,
like
you should know.
hours
I
later.
don't know. I don't know what pissed you off this morning
Yeah.
or yesterday, and you're still mad about it from a day ago. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But y'all love to say those. I'm fine. You should know.
Yeah, no, there is
We don't
women that
know.
are
That's right.
like that.
I think it's funny that, or something like that. You heard of that? I think
You
it's
literally,
funny.
those
is
are the
funny.
main phrases y'all love to say, and a lot of times
No.
men will say it
No.
too. But
Shit, I'm
kind
like,
of
you want to tell me a
alluding-
story?
I'm
You want
like,
to tell me a story?
you made me mad today, and I'm gonna explain why. And I'm just, I don't know. You
Yeah.
seem like a very direct person.
Yeah,
so-
I feel like I'm a direct person now.
Mm-hmm.
Before,
Yes.
I was a people pleaser. I didn't want nobody upset with me. I wanted everybody happy. I wanted him happy. I wanted the kids happy. Fuck what I'm feeling under the rug. I'll deal with it later. Right?
I feel like a lot of women feel like they have to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because they don't love themselves yet. It's not until you actually go through something where you're like, no, I have to love myself. Because if
Yeah.
I don't love myself, I can't love you.
Can't love you
know.
the correct way.
Yeah,
Like you said,
exactly.
if you're angry, you're obviously going to take it out on your kids. That might not be your intentions, but if you already have an attitude, you're probably going to say, you're going to tell your kid, no, don't do that with an attitude or whatever it is. But if you're in a good mood, then you're going to articulate your feelings and your emotions a lot better towards them. So I would say I wouldn't want to.
I say at the end of the day, no matter what, your feelings are valid. Say it in that moment. Don't hold on to it because you're only hurting yourself. That person done forgot about it. And they're like, what? You're telling me this now?
Yeah, we
like-
do that all the time.
Say that shit in the moment and say it with your chest because you feel it. And then either resolve it or move on from it.
At the same
Yeah.
time, I feel like I agree with you, but halfway.
Okay.
I would say in the moment you can say that, but I would give yourself more time to articulate how you're going to relay that conversation. Like,
yeah.
for instance,
I do believe that you should never speak out of anger.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I
Give
should-
yourself
you should
more
never
time
speak out of anger,
to
yeah.
grasp the situation you're in before you go and say whatever you want to say to them, because that's when you're going to be saying all the most craziest things.
I think that
I
comes
don't
with
agree with
maturity.
that. I don't agree with that. You shouldn't say things in anger, because anger is definitely a human emotion. So if you should be allowed to get things off your chest, and anger is part of that spirit that's behind whatever you need to get it off your chest, as long as it's not destructive. I'm not calling you names. I'm not
Yeah.
going like this.
Well,
or
I guess maybe hostile. You can be angry when you're saying it, but I think it's how you say it too. Because maybe that person doesn't understand how they hurt you, and you saying it maybe in a condescending tone because you're so upset. It's not going to get you anywhere, because now that person's pissed off because who the fuck you talking to? Because if I was to piss off a man, right? Say if I was to piss off a man and I don't realize I pissed them off, I get it. You're upset. Tell me what I did wrong. But that tone better be correct.
no.
No, that tone better be correct, because you're not going to talk to me crazy.
Yeah, that's not fair, because on one hand,
well, you would want
wanna
the same
be able to
respect.
it's not about respect. On one hand, you want to be able to have the freedom to get things off your chest.
Yeah.
We're going to deal with this now, and we're going to squash it, and we're going to be done, which to a lot of men would sound very threatening. Like, what do you mean I'll talk when I'm ready? Or I'll respond when I've calmed down and I've thought through what I like. And I'm not saying this is you, but I'm saying if I was with somebody, and I have been, who was hot-tempered, my natural reaction, because I was in the service and I went through a lot as a kid and I went through a lot of therapy, my reaction now is, in a lot of ways, with somebody acting like that, is to not respond.
Shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not shut down. I'm in control. My reaction is, and my response is, let's talk in a little bit. And not even, let's talk in a little bit when you've calmed down. Because when you say, let's talk in a little bit when you've calmed down, now that's condescending. Those are fighting words for a woman and sometimes for a man.
Yes.
So I just usually say, I don't think it's a good idea to talk now, but I'll talk to you in an hour. Or maybe we can go out to dinner or for a coffee or something later on. I want to be able to control myself. And
Right.
if I'm being pulled into an argument because of the hostility and because of the rage, I'm no longer in charge of me if I've yielded to that. So I think it's important to get things off your chest. I think it's important that if you're somebody who raises your voice because you're that heated, and I understand that. But I also believe that once you express that level of emotion with that level of intensity, you should be ready and prepared for whatever is coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's not somebody like me who's very disciplined emotionally, I think a lot of those kinds of relationships can be really
Toxic.
turbulent.
Oh, for sure.
But I will say this to your credit in what I've heard you say. I do agree that it is extremely important that people be able to communicate. And even if it's just, look, I need to get this off my chest. I'm going to say what I need to say. If you don't want to talk right now, that's fine. But here's how I feel, blah, 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 blah. And you just let it come out. I do think that that's extremely important because if for no other reason, the only way you get to know that guy is by his reaction or his response.
Yeah.
So if there's not, and we talked about this early on, if there's not that conflict, you don't really know who you're with.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you push buttons and you're pushing my button is to respond like this. Hey, let's talk in a little bit, or let's why don't we go out for a coffee or go
Well,
out
no,
for a dessert?
I can understand that, right? And then your partner should be like, okay, right? And then that's how you know what? I'm going to tell you, hey, I think when I'm ready, when I'm calmed down, I want to talk about something that pissed me off.
Absolutely.
Right? That's how you know
That's
somebody.
amazing. But unfortunately, most people, men and women, they don't have that level
Well,
of
I
maturity.
think that's how
was
you
about to say
that's
that.
how you learn. That's how you learn. And it's
That's
up
right.
to that person whether they accept how you take that emotion, right? Whether when you're upset, I want you to tell me you're upset and then calm down and let's have a healthy
Resolution. to the problem.
conversation, and then let's grow from it. Let's work it out.
What can we do? To make it better?
Tell me what I did. We'll talk about it and we'll compromise.
Yep.
Right?
See, I like that because usually when I don't want to say usually, I will say now, moving forward, whenever there is conflict, I'll be like, I'll tell them, let's have this 15, 30-minute hard conversation right now. So I know at the end of today, it's done.
That's
I
good.
don't want it to
Yeah.
hang over for the next 2-3 days, and now we don't really talk and communicate well because
And your whole
we're
weekend's
still-
gone. Your reservations are
we're
canceled.
So upset from what happened 3 days ago. We're still letting it drag to the
Right.
later on the week.
It's
I'm like, no,
stupid.
let's
That's
just
too
talk about
much.
it already. Let's just get it over with.
It's dumb.
And what I've done before is like you just alluded to. I'll say, okay, you didn't like that I didn't do this. So this is how we'll fix it, or I'll fix it. I will do this. I will be more patient, and I will ask you this maybe 2 or 3 times just to confirm that you don't want to do that, or you do
Right.
want to do that, and that's how we can figure out the solution.
And that's normal to go through those ups and downs with somebody you're dating, someone you're seeing, because you don't know all their likes and
Yeah.
you don't know what triggers them or whatever, or maybe their ex did it and it's like, oh, that's a simple fix. Like,
I think
Fine.
you would think it's a simple fix, but then again, it goes back to whenever we're done with this conversation, are you really gonna let it go? Because, like I said, I just gave you what the issue was. That was your issue. You told me. I gave
What
you the
I always
solution
say,
of how to
yeah.
fix it. Now, can we just dead it right now? No, because I'm still upset about it.
listen,
This
I
is
always
majority
say,
of y'all a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Literally every woman
Yeah.
I've dealt with, it's literally that situation where you're still not over it. We'll
Yeah.
talk about it. We came to the solution. We know what the issue is. We know what the problem is. I'm going to fix it, or you're going to fix it. well, I don't even want to say you're going to fix it, because a lot of the times the women don't want to take accountability because the women don't think they ever do anything wrong. But a lot of time y'all do. Y'all just don't want to admit to it, and y'all just be like, oh, I'm always right.
So I would ask you, based on what you just said, if that's something you always deal with it, I think it's a problem with you.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
What?
If
is.
it's a pattern, if it's a
That's what
pattern,
you're attracting.
and everybody you're with ends up having that same attribute
Of what again? I forget.
What you just said. That
they will
everybody I've been with
consistently not get over the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got you. Maybe I just need to, I guess, think about more of how I would deal with.
I think a lot of this, what we're talking about, I think it really does come down to spending a good amount of time with somebody before you fully commit.
And I also think it has to do with maturity.
Yeah.
It just, bottom line, maturity, experience, if they know who they are. Like, point blank, period. And I was going to say, love is a gamble, man. Love is a gamble. You have to dive in it and see if it's worth it. I mean, because
you got to go.
It's like Russian roulette. You don't know if it's gonna land where you want it
before you dive into it, though, because you hop into something and you're actually not really ready for it. You're gonna be wasting a lot of people's time.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the main questions I would ask too. Is I would say, are you ready for a relationship? And I would ask a lot of maybe other questions involving their last relationship. Why did y'all break up?
Yeah.
How long were you single?
And I think those
How
are
long
valid.
did you wait before having sex with the next person? Did you give yourself that time to heal? Oh, you did? Okay, well, during that process of you healing, did anything else go on? A family member passed away? Did you go through this? Or did you break a leg? What else did you go through to where you really properly couldn't heal and put all your emotions to actually healing? Like you said, if your leg just got broken and you're in a car accident, you're not worried about breaking up. You're worried about just getting back on your feet. You're not even thinking about relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend. You're just like, damn, I just need to learn how I'm going to walk, how am I going to pay my bills, how I'm going to do this.
I think a big red flag would be like, okay, when did y'all break up? If they're like, oh, like 2 months ago. Send them back. You gotta go.
What if they were only together for like 6 months or a year and they got over in 2 months? Because is this not true? Women will check out mentally out of the relationship before the man will.
I think it just depends on how the breakup goes, because like I've been in a relationship where I checked out and it took me a minute to really acknowledge it, because a lot of times you get so comfortable being with somebody that you're like, man, maybe I'm just going through like a rough spot, maybe it's just me, maybe I can get over it. But then when you start to realize like I'm not clicking with you anymore, you need to exit, you know? So for me, it wasn't hard to move on from that. I was already checked out for a couple months. But then when you go through like a really traumatic relationship, that takes a lot longer, where you have to like really sit with yourself. Like you said, like trauma, reflect. But you have to sit and reflect and really like learn who you are. Because sometimes especially women, like I feel like a lot of times we get in relationships and we forget who we are because we're so busy pouring into men and being like, oh, does he think I'm pretty enough? Does he think I'm smart enough? Does he think I work hard enough? And we change our lives too. Like I feel like both my relationships, like for me personally, and that's something like I've had to like look at myself in the face and be like, you do this in every one of your relationships. I forget about what I want and I pour into that other person, their life, their family, like, and I forget about like, oh, Brittany likes to work out, or Brittany likes to, do this, do that. And I stopped doing those things because I just start changing to be more of like that box of what they want.
Because you start catering to that person.
But isn't that kind of what you should do? Isn't it
you
God,
should.
man, woman, kids?
You should, but I think don't forget who you are too.
Yeah.
Well, and you were never, as far as God goes, you weren't designed to not coexist and cohabitate with people, but you weren't designed to be needy. But look at it this way. So using the Bible, God created Adam, if you believe that. God did not create Eve apart from Adam. God created Eve from Adam. And then out of Eve, God pulls out the family. Out of the family, God pulled out civilization. But it was all inside of man. It was all inside of one person. Yeah. So you could take that to mean everything that we truly need is on the inside of us. What we should focus on when we're in a relationship is complimenting one another,
Complimenting one,
supporting one
yeah.
another, loving one another. Like you said, growing together. But unfortunately, that's not the norm in most relationships. And the more relationships that you have been in that have not been healthy, the harder it is to get yourself to a place of being healthy, because that's where the real self-examination begins. I mean, it's easy for people when they break up to point the finger and say, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't do this, he didn't do that,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
this, he was that, she was this, she was that, she didn't do this, she didn't do that. And you lived with them for 10 years.
That's
But
crazy.
It's
the
so
list
easy,
but
yeah.
the list is never, what did I do and what do I own from this relationship that I come out of. I am a big believer that, and this is not just about relationships, this is in general. I'm a big believer that people should sit in front of a mirror and they should talk to themselves every day. Because here's the thing, and it sounds crazy and it sounds creepy, maybe.
No.
But
No, I think you talk to yourself,
You think it's
even not
creepy?
even
That's
in the
normal. No, I
mirror.
think
I
that's
think you
normal.
should
the
just talk
reality
to
is we
yourself.
have a talk track going on all day. We're
Yeah.
debating
Well,
with
that's what
ourselves, we're
they say.
arguing with
They
ourselves,
say
we're doubting
you
ourselves.
You are with yourself majority all the time. You have to be nice to yourself. The things that
Absolutely.
you tell yourself, you start to believe. So if I'm
right.
like, I'm ugly, I'm this, I'm that, I'm gonna start believing that. So
Yep.
that's why you have to like be
Well,
really
they
good to
say
yourself.
like what you like what you said, like what you say about yourself, what you say about what's
believe.
going on in your life. You are putting that out into the universe. And if you're saying, "Oh man, I got a shitty life. Like I can't do this. I'm like I have such bad luck." Then you are going to continue to have a shitty life.
And you're also training people to see you in that
as
light.
that, and then
based
you're
on how you're acting,
attracting
how you're talking.
shitty people. You're attracting shitty people that are gonna dim the light, whatever light you got left, and it's like, you know what, fuck it. You know what, I'm just going to die.
You know you're healthy when
You stand up for yourself.
somebody can treat you like shit, and you treat them like gold. That's when you know you're healthy, because you're not reciprocating. Just because they're being shitty to you, you're not reciprocating that back. Why? Because you have a different identity. You have a
And then they
different
gotta
set
go.
of beliefs.
And then they gotta go.
Well,
But you
I'm
know
not
the
talking
people
about in a
that treat
relationship.
you
I'm
so
talking like
bad.
you drive to a
Oh, like,
Starbucks and
yeah.
the lady at the window is just nasty to you or the guy, and you don't give them that back because you have a higher way of thinking. I'm sorry you're
No,
having a
yeah,
bad
no, I
day.
get what you're saying.
But it's because those people are unhappy within themselves.
Yeah,
That's why they
absolutely.
portray it
And
on
sometimes,
you.
you know what? Maybe they're going through something in their life, and you need to say, you know what? I hope you have a great day.
Yep.
And that's probably all they need.
Absolutely.
And then and it gets them out of their funk and like, hey, I really like your lipstick, whatever you got on, whatever, you know.
Jack.
It just,
I like your lipstick, Jack.
yeah, exactly. So it's just like, you know, it can put them in a
That's
different mood.
That's funny. I will say, just for the record, this is actually my second actual real relationship. So the other women I was alluding to before was kind of, I guess you could say, just situationships, having a good time, whatever. So obviously my full effort into trying to make them happy was not really there. It was more transactional. But this time around in my actual second relationship, and I do take accountability for where I fucked up in the first relationship. It was a lot. I don't want to say maybe there was infidelity but I don't want to
Maybe.
call it infidelity.
Maybe.
Well, I say
I'm
that.
like, I think
say,
it's a yes or no.
I say that because
You haven't decided whether or not you're in denial.
no, because behind closed doors, she was open with me having sex with other women. Like we would have open threesomes. And it was obviously not with other guys, but other women. So
It
what
was
I'm
with other
my
guys.
chair.
so what I'm saying is that I was already with other women while I was
Why were
with her.
you with her then at that point?
Exactly.
You
So
know?
that was my whole thing. Is I told her too. I was like, I'm just not happy here anymore. So
Yeah.
because I'm not happy, I'm not going to treat you the way you should be treated.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you all the things that you wanted. And I know we had got to that point where she was allowing us to have threesomes because I gave her the security to understand your position isn't going anywhere
Yeah.
else. And her position didn't go nowhere else. I didn't want those girls more than I ever wanted her. She just didn't make me happy anymore. And I remember there was been 2 times already, I would say 3 times, girls would say, oh, I'll give you what you want. You want to have relationships with other girls? I'll give you that. And I was still like, no, you just don't make me happy.
How old were
I'm just
they?
not happy anymore. This was like 8-10 years ago almost at this point.
Yeah.
Now those relationships may actually probably like 6-7 years ago now at this point. So I had given myself, I feel like I would say that after that long 5.5 year relationship, I gave it maybe 6 months, and I was like, I'm gonna try again.
Well,
and
you
then,
were checked out
and then
already by that point.
When I tried again, that's when I ended up just having a kid. No, I had a kid, and that was like another situationship where I was like, this isn't really even a real relationship.
Yeah.
It was kind of just a fling, and then you got pregnant.
Yeah.
So
That's why you have to be really careful what you're doing, because those are, you know, the circumstances of what happens. And I mean, a baby's a blessing always, right?
yeah.
But,
So I don't ever regret that. Yeah.
But, you know.
I mean, the baby wasn't on accident either, but she just said she couldn't get pregnant. So I was being naive. I was being so naive.
Never
Why would I ever
believe
that
such a
maybe
thing?
Never.
Yeah, why would I ever believe
Maybe
that?
you can.
Double
Why would
rap,
I
man.
ever believe that? But what were we gonna say?
I wish that in our culture, anyways, I wish when we were being raised that we were taught more about relationships. That when, you know, conflict happened in the home or whatever, that parents would learn to talk to their kids about what's going on, so that kids have a perspective and a learning, a beginning of a learning of how the dynamics in a relationship work. Because I'm convinced that most people really don't know what they want.
Yeah,
You know,
I
They're
mean,
so
it's one thing to
confused.
ask them, like,
People
was
are
it you
so
that said,
confused.
what's your 5-year plan? So that's one thing. But then after you ask them that, say, okay, so what does that look like? Like, what does year one look
So
like?
I will say this. I think it has a lot to do with like the generation, right? I think like my parents didn't, like, obviously they didn't show me or teach me like your value. I learned that on my own.
Yeah.
Right? I learned a lot of that on my own. And when I was raising my sons, you obviously, there's not a lot I can do as a woman to make a boy a man.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, you really-
But what I will say, what I did instill in them was, listen, you're going to like a lot of girls, you know, and I get it. Have fun, have friends, but you don't need to have girlfriends. You don't need to be out here making promises. You're
Trying
my
to take
one
them
and only.
serious, yeah.
I said, have fun at school. I promise you, girls are going to come and they're going to go. And I had this talk with my son not too long ago, my oldest one. I said, are you seeing anybody? Because my youngest one, he's been in a 2-year relationship with a girl.
Dang,
Love
already?
her. My oldest one, I said, you know, are you seeing anybody? And, you know, we have a real open relationship. And he said, Mom, these girls are fucking dumb. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, they just want to party. That's all they want to do.
How old is he?
20.
Oh.
He's like, they just want to fucking party, smoke weed, drink. They have no ambition.
18
And
to
I said,
24, majority of
Then
them.
keep it pushing, babe.
Yeah.
Keep it pushing. If they don't have any goals, and you better not be one of them.
Yeah.
I said, if they ain't got no goals, keep it fucking pushing.
Yep.
And he was like, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Don't,
And he's
honestly-
just focused.
Yeah,
he's
don't
just
even take
focused.
no girls
Yeah.
seriously.
He
Yeah.
might
At least
he might
two,
end
bro.
up dating a woman who's 5, 6 older, 5, 6 years older
Maybe.
than him.
Maybe.
That for him.
I was 18. My first serious girlfriend was 31.
Whoa,
I lost my
13 years?
virginity at 18.
That's
She
crazy.
was 31.
You know,
and it wasn't, and I've already told you guys, I
already
was
your
extremely dysfunctional, but I still had a very high EQ.
You know,
Because of everything
I
I've been
have
through.
met quite a few, not quite, but I've met a few men that have said they have lost their virginity to much older women. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, what? Like,
I've never.
that
Mine was
is,
just a year old.
that is,
But why do you think that is though?
because I feel like,
Maybe
Like,
that's
how
an ego
old are we
thing?
talking?
I shouldn't say, but
Are they robbing the crib or what?
yes, yes.
Okay.
And
got
I'm
you,
like,
got you.
I don't think that was okay.
I
And
feel
they're like, no,
feel
I learned.
Men might like that just because they don't know yet.
Right.
So when we have a woman that's kind of teaching us, it's
Yep.
like, okay, this is how women kind of like it, and this is what
Right.
you want. Now, the next time we try, we're like, okay, this is kind of what I was taught. So I kind of know what to do and whatnot. But if you're having a guy that has never had sex before and he's having sex with his first girl ever, he's for sure not going to know what to do.
All I
Especially know what
know-
to do with her if it's her first time.
All I know, if I found out that shit happened to my son,
Raising hell.
I'm going to be in
Press-
Question real quick before we wrap up, because I know David said we had a hard stop at. Oh, okay. So How were you older than any of the guys you took virginities from growing up?
You took virginities?
No.
Oh, so you never took a virginity?
From a guy?
Yeah.
Not that I know.
What
of.
about you? Have you?
I think I was maybe 18. He was 17. He was my high school boyfriend at the time, long time ago.
That's pretty common, honestly.
Yeah.
One year gap or so. That's pretty common, I would say. Most people, like when they lose their virginity with their significant other or whatever, it's usually like a 1-2 year gap.
Yeah.
Kind of comfortable. But I could see why younger girls would want an older guy, more experience, whatever it is, even at a younger age.
I think it's just wanting someone mature. That's it.
For women,
me,
for sure.
For women,
For
yeah.
women, majority
I
of the time.
just feel like I like a man that leads and has his life together, and doesn't want to be outside partying or hanging out with his boys playing video games or those things.
yeah.
Of those things.
The thing about that is that that reminds me of my friend Brian David. It reminds me of my friend Brian David because, you know, him and his wife, you know, if you know Brian David, if you've seen him online, he's basically packed up his whole life and then took her to Mexico to go live like this free life, essentially. No, for sure.
Love that for them.
Let's just live life every day. Like,
Yeah.
we don't know what life's gonna bring. Let's just
Everyone's
do it.
story is different. I love that for them, though. Yeah.
No, but you know, the reason I bring that up is because, you know, you think about the whole, you know, wanting to get somebody that's older, and it brought me back to this point that we talked about earlier, where, you know, what was it? Something about leading, and you know how guys normally don't, you know, mature until they're older, but then when they're older, because they've been providing with it for so long and shit. You know, that whole little point. From my perspective, you know, I'm the oldest, so naturally I'm the leader of the family. I'm the provider in a sense with my siblings and whatnot. Had a kid when I was 21, and I have custody of her ever since. Whatever, right? But I don't see me going into my 30s wanting to be, okay, I've had this whole span of 10 years of just providing. Let me go into my 30s and 40s and start partying it up. If anything, nah, like, because, so that whole argument where y'all guys said that happens to guys and it happens to girls a lot earlier or later, I mean, I don't think that's valid. I think it's
different for everybody. Just because that's not for you doesn't mean that's for somebody else.
I will say that I still see when I was in my early 20s and I would go out to the clubs or whatever, I still see the same guys in those clubs or in new
midlife
clubs.
crisis.
There's no
guys.
way, for real.
I swear. So, and I'm like, you're still out there.
wait, but you're still at the club too.
I am not at a club. I don't do clubs.
So how did you know he was at the club if you weren't at
Because
the club?
we're on
shit.
Instagram, social
Up on my
media.
girl.
Giving you a hard time.
We're on like social media. But like, no, I don't go to clubs. I go to like bars. I go to like,
Loungy
chill
restaurants.
yes.
Yeah,
I go to like
Komodo.
my age.
Komodo.
No, I don't go to Komodo. I go to my age.
But do you have any last statements before I know you have to get going? Or do you have any questions for the ladies? Or one question?
I don't have a question. I just want to reiterate a point. I think it's really important that you truly know yourself inside and out better than anybody, and it should be a goal for men too. It should be a goal that that you know yourself really well, that you know your vulnerabilities, that you're okay with your vulnerabilities. And my biggest thing is, for God's sake, be okay with your life.
Yeah.
Be okay with your story. You don't. That doesn't. I'm not saying you need to every time you meet somebody tell them your whole life story. I'm saying
Right.
that you should be so well adjusted and so loving with yourself that you would be okay seeing your life on a billboard and not being ashamed of it.
Yeah.
That should be your goal, because anything other than that, there's a part of your ego that's still controlling your life. Anything other than that, there's still a part of you that's being controlled by what other people think of you. What other people, you're afraid of what people might be saying about you, and you shouldn't be, because everybody in the world has the same problem and has the same issues and has a lot of the same struggles that we have, which is right here.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's not other people. It's not your experience. We're human. We all struggle with the same things. Some people struggle more. Some people don't struggle with certain things, but
Yeah.
everybody has a struggle.
Yeah.
And you should be okay with it. You should be proud to say, yeah, I'm totally okay with crying in front of people. I don't care if it's a dude or a woman or a kid or whoever. If I feel like crying, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
And shame on all the men who grew up in generations telling their kids, go in the other room if you're going to cry. I don't want to see you cry. Big boys don't cry. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
That was one of the most destructive things men could ever say to a child.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden that little boy grows up being a people pleaser his entire life.
Yeah.
And they don't even know why when they're 25 years old. All they know is that they're not allowed to cry. They can't break down in front of their girlfriend. Their girlfriend is complaining that they're not able to express their feelings and be vulnerable. Why? Because of what daddy told them when they were 5 years old.
See, psychologically, I went to a funeral, so I didn't see my dad cry. He went to the other room to go cry. And it taught me, anytime there's a funeral, you have to be the strongest one. He never verbally told me, don't cry, or you have to be the strongest one. I just took it as, I want to be the one that doesn't cry. I want to be there and be the strong one. I let everybody else cry, but I'll go home and break down on my own. And I'll grieve on my own time whenever I need to, but I need to be stronger for everybody else. Especially at a funeral, you got to think everybody's crying. And like you alluded to earlier, your ex-wife, crying so hysterically because she was finally taking it in, because she realized, oh, this is it now. Yeah. This is the final. This is the final nail in the coffin, because now I'm never going to get to see him again.
Yep.
And whatnot. Now you're over emotional about the whole thing. So maybe that would be me too. But I feel like just once you're in that environment, you will just probably let it out. It's so hard to not let it out. Your emotions overcome, and then you start looking up, and you're like,
man, I be crying at weddings. I'm like, I never want to get married again, but I'm crying.
Hey, I want to say thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you for
on. I
having me.
really would
My
like to
pleasure.
have you on again.
Anytime.
And deep dive more into psychology and everything like that. And just, I think the whole subject of marriage is real important, because like I alluded to earlier, I was just asking you, I want to know why people want to get married. Like, why do you really want to get married? You've been married, divorced. You've been married, divorced. So why do people still want to get married, knowing that's just a flip of a coin that you could end up in divorced, right? They say
love's a gamble.
Well, love's a gamble, but marriage only has two endings. You either die or you get divorced.
Yeah.
That's true. There's no way around it. That's the only two things that are going to happen inside of a marriage. That's it.
Yeah.
It's the
That's
inevitable.
why you have to be very careful who you decide to marry.
I mean,
Very
ultimately, you're just telling the government you are together, right?
See, I wouldn't even do that. Exactly. That's why
It's
I think,
ultimately
what's the point in
but
even doing it?
But it stems. It also has to do with, like, if my husband, right? Say, like, not even if my husband's on, he needs to resuscitate. I can't make those decisions.
No, I'm going to let him die. No, I'm just playing. Let me get that life insurance. Let me get the life insurance.
Did we get a life insurance policy?
Hey, I appreciate you for coming on. Yes, sir. We will have you on again.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Have a
Nice
good
meeting you as well.
And we will just finish up these last little 15 minutes.
All right, let me walk you out. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, yeah, we got it on us too. Do you guys have any questions for me before I get into my next question?
I want to know what your healing was like that one last year for you.
Well, I think it was longer than that, wasn't it?
She went through a year of healing.
A year, yeah. So it's been like 3 years now.
You've been single for 3 years. Okay.
So I've been single for 3 years. So the first year, I will say that I just cried every single day. I think it was just like just reliving it, because also he wasn't ready to give up, and having to keep telling myself, like, no, don't go back, because it's so easy to be like, I'm going back, because I did it.
It's a comfort zone.
Yeah, because I did it before, and they say it takes anywhere from 5 to 7 times before you actually leave your situation. And not that this was like a domestic violence situation, but I had been in one before, and I could see my pattern was repeating.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? I have given this everything. Counseling, therapy, everything. I have quit 2 careers for this person. Like,
That's hard, yeah.
I have done everything that I could possibly do. And and that's probably, in his eyes, that's probably not true, right? Because everybody has a different side to the story, right? How they see things. But for me, I was able to walk away and say I gave it my all. And I was okay because my mom is still married to my dad. Like, I didn't come from divorced parents. My grandparents are not divorced. And
Dang, that's so hard because you're like, dang, I'm the first failure out of all of us.
it's not a failure.
No, I'm just saying, is
but
that how you felt?
it was, I would say it was something new. It was something new that
You
nobody,
didn't have no one around you to relate
right.
to.
And
yeah.
my
Yeah.
mom was like, this is marriage. It's hard. You know, you got to go through it.
Ah, that sounds
And
so-
Especially those
so
old
I,
values, too.
yeah, exactly. Because she had those old values. And so I stuck it out. I did what I thought was right. But internally, I kept seeing the signs of this was not right. And I'm not saying like within my marriage, I just kept seeing the universe telling me,
you can, I don't want to say you
this-
can do better, but like you yourself could do better.
You were
what
just-
you're
you were settling
thinking,
in a
what your
sense, yeah.
intuition, keep fucking that in, like my intuition never left.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, stop ignoring it and do it because nothing's getting better. But as soon as I walked away and as soon as I stuck
Peace.
to my guns, I was at peace.
I was
It
gonna say
hurt.
peace.
It hurt for sure, but I was at peace. And then you have to grieve it. Like, you're going through the stages of it. And then you have to find your support system. Who's your friends? Who's going to be there? My mom was obviously there. I mean, my mom was really a big part of my healing. And, you know, the boys, you know, they were going to school and, you know, whatever. But a lot of my friends that just kind of like really, my close friends really just like rallied around me and tried to like, what do you need? You know, how can I be here for you? And ultimately it was like, you can't. Like, I appreciate
go
it,
through this by
but
yourself.
I just have to sulk for a little bit. And this is why I say, like, give yourself grace, but get yourself fucking out of it.
Yeah.
Like, all right,
Maybe
This
a
is not the
month.
end of the
Yeah, maybe
world.
a month of like crying every single day, eating ice
Yeah.
cream, and then it'd be like, all right, I know what I need to do now, which
Yeah.
is grieve this, but grieve it in a different way. I
I
think my
you have
tears
to
are
like
gone.
have to like really mentally check in with yourself where you're like, this is done. Like, I have to move on with my
yeah,
life.
you have to.
Because the grieving, I feel like, lasts longer when you're like, what if?
Yeah, when you're doing the what ifs, what could I have done better? What could I have changed? What if I did it this way? Would it be any different? It's like, no. You have came this far, so let's just fucking move on.
What do they say? I didn't come this far just to
Come this far. I didn't come this far just to come this far. Exactly.
That shit is too far. I will say though too, I've seen this study. 50% of marriages end in divorce, correct? That's not including the statistics of marriages where they will just stay together for the kids.
Yeah.
Let's say that's another 10%. Now you're looking at you're talking about 60 to 40% of marriages are going to end in divorce.
And
so
it
now it's not even a
sucks.
flip
It's
of a coin
possible,
now.
yeah.
It's like majority. If you get married, it's probably more than likely you're going to get a divorce. And then, you know, women will get upset when a man says, you know what, let's get this, what is it? Prenup. And they'd be like,
I
no,
think
I don't want
everybody
that.
should get a prenup.
A good example.
I think
for that,
everybody should
a
get
good
a
example
prenup.
for a prenup for more people to understand. Maybe they'll rethink their process. Is you're going to die, right? So why not get life insurance?
Yeah.
You might not need it because you'll stay alive until it expires, right? But you got it just in case. So now we might not need this prenup because we're gonna stay together until we die.
Yep.
But just in case we don't make it to that point and we get a divorce, we got the prenup.
Yeah.
It's literally the same concept. It's
It is.
insurance for the marriage to know what do you think you're obligated to, or what do you feel you're obligated to? What do I feel I'm obligated to when this, this marriage ends in divorce? So
Yeah.
I feel as if a man and a woman don't want to get it, either party, I feel like as if you're not genuinely there for that person.
Yeah, I feel like women can take it more like what's that word? Like
Offense?
more offense to it. But I, as a woman that went through a divorce,
Get
I
that
would
prenup.
get a fucking prenup.
Okay.
I would get a fucking prenup in a heartbeat.
ASAP.
And it's not like I had all the money in the world, or it's not. But when it comes to assets,
House, cars,
everything,
kids, all that goes into
debt.
Debt too.
Oh.
Nobody
Ooh.
even thinks about debt.
You know,
Nobody
I didn't
thinks
even
about
think
that.
Nobody
about that.
thinks about debt.
Yep. That's why a lot
And
of guys.
I will tell you
guys will
from
be like,
experience.
the guys will be like, take the house. Go ahead.
Well-
Take that bill and the debt that comes with that house. I'll just go live in an
Well,
apartment.
if
I don't
it's
gotta
in
worry
your
about it.
name, but y'all got it together, it's in your name. He ain't got shit to do with
Okay,
it.
keep the house.
No.
You deal with
Not
that
even
debt.
no, not even the house. I'm talking about, say y'all have a credit card together, but it's in
okay.
your name. But y'all went and got like furniture together. Y'all went and did remodeling of the house and all
You
of
know,
that.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
But
that's
you
another
have
thing.
the better credit score, so you took on that debt because. But y'all are married, of course. I'm gonna do that. Like,
Yeah, that's your man.
That's my
your
man. That's
man.
my man.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my name on there for us.
But no, y'all get a divorce. That's only in your name.
the girl,
What are you gonna tell the judge?
The girl gets
You
in a
know what
lot
I
of debt and then divorces him. Just
Yeah.
so he gets.
I don't know. That's crazy. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because of the debt.
That's why prenups are so important, because it diffuses a lot of the arguments that could happen later on. Now you're just making it easier for the lawyers to really argue your side of the story, because y'all had already talked about what was each person was going to get.
Yeah.
If we to get divorced and we already have this house before we get married, yeah, you know what, she can have the house.
And these times, I feel like that should be like a normalized conversation when getting
Prenups.
married.
Before getting
Because in
married. Yeah.
reality, you just don't know what the future holds. And not that you're saying like, oh, I know we're gonna get divorced. If y'all don't, then it don't fucking matter.
Yeah, this is literally, we ripped this up.
we
if
don't.
we
It don't
died
fucking
before it
matter.
even gets to that point.
But if you decide you want to go fuck the lawn guy, and I just
So he
you
comes
know
out the
whatever,
closet.
I'm gonna hold on to my assets.
And that's how it should be. And see, that's another good question. Maybe you would want to ask moving forward. Like, I know you want marriage and I know you want kids, but since you do want marriage, maybe the next question to be like, if he says, yeah, I do want marriage, what do you think about a prenup? I would want
I've
us to
had
get
that
one.
conversation with
Okay.
somebody before. Yeah.
Oh, so what's the closest you've been to getting married, do you think? Well, actually, I don't even know if I could ask you that, because I guess it would feel like that's more on the guy's side if he was ready to ask you or not.
Yeah,
right?
I
He
wouldn't
had a
know
ring?
because I'm not the guy that
Yeah, he would be like,
proposed.
oh, I was just about to propose.
I mean, I was in 2 really long relationships. Yeah. So.
But how long were they?
One was like 4 or 5. The other one was almost 2.
What is your
To me, 2 years isn't long. A
Yeah.
long relationship. I would think 4 years plus is a long relationship.
Let me
to
ask you this. What is your do you have a time limit of when somebody's like whether they want to marry you or not? Like
That's what I was
whether
gonna
that's a
ask you. Mhm.
conversation.
I feel like I didn't, but then as like relationships were going bad, like after so long being with them, I think after like a year and a half, that's when I kind of start like, what are we doing? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But I definitely won't. For me, I don't think I would be with someone for 4 years just for them to figure out like they don't want to be with me. You know what I mean?
But I think that it's almost necessary, because like we were alluding to with Philip, how do you really know somebody within a year?
I think
You
no, I
don't
think
know,
after
I feel
3
like.
years, I think that okay. So on a date, a man's gonna know within a few minutes whether he wants to take you out on a second date and if he's gonna take you seriously.
I would say by the third. No, I
no,
would say by just,
within a few seconds.
I would say first date already. The guy knows if you want to take a girl seriously.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The first date.
Yeah.
Within within a few seconds of you, a woman opening her mouth.
Like, he can want to take her serious, but as you go on those other dates, that's when he'll disqualify you later on.
I think
If
if it's like, okay, I'm gonna take her on our second date, and then maybe a third date, they're like, you know, let's see what she's about, blah blah blah, blah or whatever. But by 3 months, if y'all are just still dating, you're just wasting your
Wasting
time.
Yeah.
Yes,
But I think too, like a lot
From a
of
woman's
times,
perspective, maybe.
a lot of times, like it isn't just a man's decision. Like it's a woman's decision too. Like, do I want to go on another date with you? Do I want to marry you? Like it's equally our decision. You know.
I think we're just speaking in the terms of like she was just saying, a man already basically knows. I will say a man does know when he meets a girl if he wants to potentially take her serious, if he just wants to have fun.
Yeah.
Like I was alluding to earlier with
But I
that
think
girl.
you should be honest. Like, whenever it comes to something like that, like, don't, like, give the girl the idea, like, you want something serious with her. Just be honest and be like, hey, I just want to have fun with you. And if she's cool with that,
you gotta be upfront as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
a lot of
and
girls
that's-
they kind of hip scotch around what they really want because they're trying to please the man
I
on that
think
first date.
that
a
is
lot of
gonna
the time,
be
too.
the type of girl that you're attracting.
Well, I'm not speaking from
Well, you know what I
experience.
mean?
'Cause
But I'm just
usually
saying, yeah.
if I wanted that, I would literally tell a girl, "Hey, I'm just trying to have fun."
Like if she
I'm
doesn't
letting
know
you
what
know
she
from the
wants,
beginning, yeah.
then she doesn't know who she is.
Because
Yeah.
I hate the idea of the me leading you on. Because I wouldn't want to be led
Yeah.
on to think
Yeah.
that we're gonna be something, and now I know you were talking to 7 other
well,
guys.
that's good. You're
Yeah,
mature.
I'm like,
But a
damn.
lot of people are not like that.
Because there
though,
are
you know?
Like in high
yeah.
school, okay, yeah, I did do that. But that's high school. We don't even
Yeah.
know about ourselves to even not know that, hey, psychology tells us we shouldn't be even doing this. But psychology is saying, if I do this, I'm going to manipulate her to get what I want. So, I'm just going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
Because like he said, I'm thinking with my lower half and not my top half
Yeah.
to really understand what I'm actually
Right.
doing. It took after that 5-year relationship for me to realize, okay, yeah, I could see what I was doing. It was a sense of manipulation where I'm going to tell you what you want to hear, but I'm not really just to get what I want.
I think also, too, you look back at that and be like, man, I wasted my time, too.
I feel like I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I feel like all relationships are not a waste of time. I feel like they're just a learning experience.
experience,
So
yeah.
you learn that's not what I want to do again. I seen some of the red flags. I don't want to get hit again. I need to, revalue what caused him to get to that point, so I don't do that to the next man to push his buttons. Now, a lot of the time too, you kind of want to push buttons in a sense. It's psychology, but you want to push the buttons because you want to see how they're gonna react.
I say I push buttons.
Yeah, no, but you
I push
exactly,
buttons.
guys
What do you
and
mean
girls.
by push buttons?
You
So
wanna
like I'm
kinda
very
irk them.
upfront, and I say like I'll tell them exactly. Okay, I'm very direct.
I am too,
and
so I'm just curious. what
I'm
you're-
like,
So
listen,
give us a scenario. Let's say, let's just pretend I am Felipe, and I'm your boyfriend, whatever. So
I
do it
straight
how
up
you would do
say
it.
I am a brat.
Okay, you're telling me. You're
Okay,
talking to me.
I
a brat.
am a brat in a sense of like, I will not accept if you cannot do more than what my father can do for me. It's not for me.
Is
okay.
that you trying to push a button?
No, it's more
I
of
think that's
a.
just
I
being
think it's.
honest.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
being
it's
honest.
right,
Oh,
but
that's
it's
you being direct. Okay.
right. It's me being direct, but But for me, like right now, I'm like, listen, like we can date or whatever, but I don't want to be exclusive.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be like for the streets. No,
No, it's not even that. It's not even that. I'm not ready to be in a
you're
relationship.
testing your waters.
I'm not ready to be in a relationship.
should say
You're
that.
more
Don't
than
say-
welcome to walk away.
Don't say that though. Just say I'm not ready.
Yeah, if
That's
I'm not
more
ready,
direct.
I'm not
That's
gonna,
more
like,
direct,
waste
though.
anybody's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more direct. Like what you just said there. Just be like, hey, I'm not ready.
So what happened with Alan?
About Alan, me and Alan are cool, man. Yeah, he's a
I don't
writer.
wanna see that.
Alan is a writer.
I bet.
I'm like, who's Alan?
That is too funny.
No,
Okay.
Alan's cool. He's chill. Like, he gets it. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not ready to be in a relationship, but I'm not out here talking to multiple people. I don't got the time. I don't have the energy. But Alan understands my lifestyle.
I mean, most men do. Like, I've been in situationships where I knew that I was just there for sex. And I knew that when she said, hey, I don't want to do this no more because this, and that, I would tell her, who would I be to tell you that you can't better yourself?
Yeah.
And I know you
When a
doing
man
this is
tells me
betting
that,
yourself.
it's a wrap.
But I
Like,
feel like
It's a wrap
for
what?
me,
If a man
like
tells
if
you
a
what?
man tells me like I don't want to waste, or in a sense when you say like who
Yeah.
am I to tell you, that's another form of way saying like I'm not gonna hold you back.
Yeah.
like if she's
better
ready to be in a
yourself.
relationship
Yeah.
and that man is saying like, I mean, I don't want to waste your time because I don't know when I'm gonna be ready.
Yeah, he's wasting your.
Then yeah, walk away because that's not for you. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it was like, I'm not ready to be in a relationship, but like I'm not out here talking to other people because I just don't have the energy for it. I don't have the time, but I like you enough to keep you around. Like I'm gonna talk to you, and it's gonna be me and you. But we have an understanding of like when I'm ready, more than likely it'll be him.
That's cute.
So he's putting in the work.
So can Alan still mess around despite the fact
Alan
that
can do whatever he wants. We ain't exclusive.
See, but that's the thing. It's a two-way street on that because we also know you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And the man can do whatever he wants. So in a sense, neither one of us could really be mad about what the other person does.
It's
understanding.
Alan can do whatever he wants. I can do whatever I want because I am not genuinely ready to be in a relationship. I'm not ready to. I'm just not.
You're not
ready.
capable of.
I still have a lot on my plate that I'm doing, and I just don't have time to pour that into somebody. And for him to understand and be like, hey, like, cool, I got my thing, you got your thing, and we still spend a lot of time together. But are we exclusive? No.
How old is he?
He's gonna be 40.
Oh, y'all basically the same age. Okay, that's not bad.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Like y'all.
They got a marriage. Pact.
No, it's not a marriage because I don't want to get married again.
Yeah, but you would never get with a guy that's younger than you. Probably not.
No, I mean that's not necessarily true.
I would say, but you're probably not gonna consider a guy that's younger than you unless he doesn't even tell
if
you.
If he was on the maturity level as I am,
I could see that.
Yeah.
But
you think you're open to dating people with kids or no?
I have kids. I mean,
have kids, but there's people that won't date.
I mean,
with
basically,
kids.
your kids are gone though. So
I mean,
really do.
Alan's got kids.
No,
okay,
but
then
but I think it's different because you're at the point where you're like, I'm free. 17, 20. I don't need to watch them. They could literally live on their own. I could do whatever. I could travel tomorrow, and they
baby boys be picking mama up.
Yeah,
okay,
see, that's what I'm saying. So if he had little kids, then she'd be like,
does he have little kids?
Yeah.
And see, that would make you maybe want to rethink it because you're like, I just got my freedom back.
I don't think that's
now
an
I gotta
issue
go back
for me.
into that role.
I don't think that's an issue for me. I think I spend a lot of my time catering to everybody else. I'm in my era right now, and I'm not budging for nobody. Like, I like you, but I'm sorry, it's about me. I'm so fucking selfish now.
When do you think that mindset would shift back to not being so me?
I don't know.
Do you think you'll ever switch it?
I don't know.
You still need to heal.
I feel healed. I just feel like I just want to give me like my
but how
me
long
time.
is me?
Do you think you haven't met the right person? That's why. To like make you feel like I have to stop worrying about me. They can worry about me and help me just like.
No, because I think that it's hard to say because I just want to make sure when I go into something, I give my all. I give my all, and it's like I want to make sure I have done and
all the things you wanted to do.
I would, fulfill the accomplishments that I know that if I were to get in a relationship, I'm not gonna have the time for it. You know what I mean? And when that time will come, I don't know, and I'm not rushing it because it's me, baby.
Are you cool at 60?
At 60, what? I'm be traveling.
Oh, you said you what?
At 60?
I think it'll be when she least expects it.
Yeah, I think when you know.
I think that's anybody. But still at the
I think
same time,
when I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, let's get into a
relationship. If a girl
relationship.
told me that what you just said, I think that's like almost the best situation to be in. If I was Alan and you told me what you just told me.
But the thing is, you know what it is? I communicated that shit up front.
I'm just saying, now I know I can just have fun.
Yeah.
Now I know I'm just here for fun. That's cool. I'm here for fun.
Well, it's not just fun. I think we're building something, but there is a understanding and a mutual respect. But whether he wants to go and talk to other girls, cool.
Yeah, I would say I'm just gonna have fun too. Then
cool.
Because when you say I don't want to be exclusive, that's literally saying do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, do whatever you want. So
I'm not gonna be exclusive. Like,
and at the same time, the girl's gonna do whatever she wants too. So if she ends up doing whatever she wants and finds a better option,
that's not the case with her. She
later.
doesn't want to do whatever she wants.
I'm too busy.
I didn't say you were.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying.
Women will do the same thing.
But maybe that's why he hasn't walked away.
But because you're not like that. You're not like a lot of these women just saying we're not exclusive, but I do want to like maybe keep.
No, I think it's just because like I think he understands like the reason why I don't want to be exclusive.
And he's 40, so he really ain't trying to be out here. Yeah, he ain't really trying to be out here like that no more. Plus,
I mean, he's a good-looking man.
No,
he's a good-looking man. If he wanted to be out there, he could. And trust me, if he wanted to get other women, he can.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm sure guys could. A lot of guys could.
Yeah.
But at the same time, at 40, being a bachelor, just that's what I said. Right now, at 28, I'm like, I don't really believe in marriage. Maybe at 40, I will, and I'll be like, I do want to have more kids or whatever it is. Honestly, I don't want to have more kids, but I mean, maybe just
Discuss
one more.
that with your girlfriend.
Maybe just one more. Maybe. I'm
Have
like
them
I said,
young.
I'm
Look,
such
best
in the
advice:
air
have
about
them
that.
young.
Yeah, I'm such in the. That's what I'm saying. I don't want to have. If I have another kid now, well, I really wouldn't have another kid, but now, let's say at 30. Or whenever she was 30, that I'm gonna be like 35, and I have to restart again.
That's still young.
No, but I have
That's
to.
still young. My mom had me.
You
at
say that,
35.
but I have to restart again. So now I'm 35.
So
can't
my window
travel
was
like I want
32.
to. I can't buy the things I want to no more because now, if I didn't have a kid at that age and I just had my son now, he'd be almost a teenager. Now I can still do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And he can almost do it with me. But before, now if I got a newborn that's 3 years old or 4 years old, now I'm just like, I can't
I'll be
do this, I can't
38
do
while my
that.
son's turning 21.
You're old. You're a father. What all do you want to do?
Okay, for example, so I like that you brought that up because once you get to a point with having a kid and now they're not as dependent on you per se. I mean, yeah, they still depend on you or whatever, but now you're in a position where you can focus on doing other stuff. For me, for example, I don't think I would be able to do all this and everything else I got going on if my daughter was like 2, 3, 4, 5. But now she's a little older. She's taking care of herself, bathing herself, making herself something to eat. So now it frees up a bunch of my time to pursue this. But as I get older, I know for a fact that I've always been an ambitious person, despite the fact whether I apply myself to certain things or not. I've always wanted more for myself. And having a kid and doing that all over again can be beneficial and detrimental to that specific goal. One, the benefit comes with saying, okay, now I need to go harder because I got this kid on the way, and like now I have to better balance my time between going through childhood, like the early stage of childhood again, and then detriment because now you're focusing too much time on the kid, and then you don't pursue what you want to pursue to the fullest. So there's always good and bad to both things, but I think ultimately having a kid as a guy is, could be one of the best things that happens to us for personal development, because it puts you in that sink or swim moment.
It does.
Because look, I don't think I would have had a house when I was 24 if I didn't have a kid, because that put me having a kid, having to carry my daughter over my shoulder from the apartments late at night, early mornings, me feeling uncomfortable doing that put me in a position where I'm like, well, fuck, I don't want to keep doing this, because you get to the apartments, ain't nowhere to fucking park near your apartment. You gotta park on the other side of the fucking complex and shit like that. All this shit. No, dead ass.
Fuck.
No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna share a personal story with y'all because when I was 7 or 8, my mom picked us up from the babysitter's house because her and my sister's dad at the time, they went to the club or whatever. We pulled up into the apartment. We get out. The apartment was like pretty close by, but then a car pulls up, and then they get him out the car. They're holding my mom's boyfriend at gunpoint with a rifle to his head, trying to rob him. They pulled the trigger, but just as he pulled the trigger, he pivoted, went through his arm, and went through his back. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, and we saw that shit happen right there. Then my mom gives us the key. She's like, go inside, go inside, go inside. So they took whatever fucking wallet he had and his matricula or whatever the fuck. They rob him there, boom, and then now he's laying on the ground bloody and shit like that. So living through that, and then also realizing that now I'm in that position because I have a kid, put me in a position to elevate myself.
Right.
So having kids, regardless of what age you are, isn't a bad thing for a man, because like I said, it just puts you in that higher state of wanting to elevate yourself even more.
Yeah, no, I definitely think like some guys can either have that drive, or some men can, or some boys can just run from it.
Some boys, okay.
Yeah, but that's what they are. They're
Yeah, they
boys.
run.
They run from it. Like, you know what? You figure it out. Fuck no. Like,
Yeah, I don't got the mental capacity to
yeah,
help you.
and it's like, this is your child too, but they run from it, right?
Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think a lot of the men in our community for example, are like that. Because I know you growing up, you going to high school, you're experiencing the same thing we did, where they were just having babies left and right, weren't ready to provide or whatever, and it just turns into a whole scenario of
from how they were raised. I think, yeah, I think it just stems from how they were raised. I think it stems for accountability. They weren't pushed maybe to have ethics, maybe goals.
crazy though, because most of the people that I know that are like that grew up in a two-parent household, whereas I didn't grow up in a two-parent household. But I also no, because here's what it is. I learn from other people's mistakes, and I had this discussion with my dad when I was a kid. But I told him, I was like, look, because he's always like, oh, Miko, I wish I was there for you, and me and your mom still together. Man, whatever, dude, I don't care. You know why? Because I learned what not to do. Looking at you, looking at all of the flings you've had, the kids you have left and right, how you ended up with my stepmom, how my siblings are, the way you raised them and shit like that. I learned to not be like you. I love you, but I'm not gonna be like you.
I think some guys either are they use the product of their environment as an excuse to run away and to not hold themselves accountable for their actions. And I think some guys are like, I will not be that just because I'm a product of this environment.
A good example would be LeBron James.
Yeah, exactly.
His dad left him. All he had was his mom and his grandma. And he was like, my goal is to not be like my dad. And with my kids, I want to be there for them any step in any way that I can.
Exactly.
You know, it's so crazy though, because I know people who are still like that to this day. They were like that in their 20s, and now they're like that to this day. And every time I would talk to them, and they'd be like, man, I fucked up, bro. I'm fucked up. Damn, I don't want this shit no more. Like, I know this one fucking dude, bro. He had a kid when he was like 15. Disrespectful as hell to his baby mama, to the point where she ended up marrying another dude. Don't even let him see him, the son and shit like that. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The guy kind of deserves it, bro. He's kind of a, like, he's a bum. I mean, yeah, he probably works, but he works to get drunk and shit. And it's just like,
what it is, because it's just like what we were saying. What you say about yourself is how you are gonna be.
No. Does that shit when he's drunk, but here's my understanding. No. Here's my understanding of it. I feel like when people say shit like that to themselves when they're intoxicated, it gives them sort of an excuse to say. They say that when they're sober. No. I mean, maybe.
Not say it to you.
Yeah.
They're saying it to their mom. Like, I guarantee you, their mom's like, go get a fucking job, help me pay these bills. Because where are they living? They ain't living on their own. They're living with they're living with their mom, because their mom is enabling them, because she's not gonna kick out her baby. You know, like, I don't want to see my baby on the street so he can like fall into drugs. She don't want to feel that she did that.
I like how you say that, but a lot of guys, the dads, I would say fathers, will think the opposite. Yeah. Oh, you want to be like that? All right, go do that shit on your own. You want to be bumming doing this or do that? All right, go live out there and see if you can make it.
Yeah.
And then the mom's like, no, but baby, don't kick him out. Don't do that.
You know what? I get that to a certain extent. I feel like the dads have to take some accountability. I get the tough love. Like, I get that. But at some point, you had some making in how he is. Yeah. Because you're the man of the house. Yep. And a woman can only teach a man to do so much. Yep. So you have to sit down and check your own ego, and you need to talk to your son about what he needs to do, because obviously you're not doing something in this household that he's looking up to.
It goes both ways, like you said. While the dad's at home making the money, let's just say, and then she's at home raising the kids. Yeah. As soon as the dad gets home, he's got to check in as, I'm dad now, I'm father. Yeah. I can't keep thinking I'm boss man at work. I got to come home, be father. Hey, you want to go play outside? You want to go do this? Do you want to go do that? You actually have to be there, not just be upstairs in your room just because now you're home now. Yeah. And you're tired.
And that's why you got a lot of these baby daddies hugging their baby mamas from the back while they're over there paying the bills, and their kids are like, yeah, that's my daddy. daddy.
No,
like
you
that's
see
what what they looking at. That's their example
When you
of a
say
man.
that, I imagine that. Have y'all seen that clip where it's this little skinny dude and he's walking behind the big girl? He's like,
Yes,
when income tax is
exactly,
about to hit. No, it's when income tax is about to hit.
I have seen that in person. That is real.
I'm like, bro,
I've not
why would she think that this dude actually wants to take her serious? Like, stop it. But
Because
it
she
can go
has
both
no
ways.
value. She doesn't know her self-worth. She don't have no respect for herself. And that's just what it is. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, she's also enabling her baby's daddy to be a bum.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll say this before.
Oh, go ahead, David, and I'll go ahead and hit Ariel's line.
I'm gonna say today's show, I would say, is accountability for men and women. That's
sure.
my main thing. Take accountability in your mess ups and whatever it is that you have to do. Make it right. Actually do the groundwork. It's funny we say this real quick. I actually talked to two people that are girls these past couple days, and they said the same thing we've been saying. As soon as they got out of their situations, they almost use somebody else to grieve.
Yeah, as a crutch.
But they didn't grieve.
They use
were
them as a
just-
crutch.
it was just to move their emotions from that
Yeah.
relationship to this one, and now they can stop thinking about that one.
They're
and now
masking their
Yeah,
emotions.
and now they were
It's
like,
gonna bleed into
both
their
of-
new relationship.
That's what I was saying. Both of them were like, I realized that what I was doing with this other situation, I did it for 2 years. The other one, she was like, I did it for 3 months, and now I realize I need to just be alone. I need to be alone.
Why are people so scared to be alone?
I don't know.
This is what I always say. If you cannot be alone and have fun with yourself, you can't take yourself out on a date and completely enjoy your time. You are not ready for a
I've been doing
relationship.
that all the time. I love going to eat alone.
It's
cheaper.
love it.
It's cheaper. Way cheaper going to eat alone.
Okay. There's an argument to be made here from the perspective of, humans aren't, I guess solitary confinement, for example. They're not made to be alone. So I think it comes with discipline, but ultimately, I don't think people are meant to be alone.
In the long run, no.
Well,
but
no, because then you start going crazy, right? You start talking to yourself like there's another person in the room. But I do say, like, as far as that comes from you learning to love yourself.
Yeah, you're
right?
okay with
Because
going to eat
if you
alone.
if you can't enjoy your own time, then how is anybody else going to enjoy you?
Yeah, like I like being able to just, like, if you're in a relationship and you just get in the car and you're gonna go to the store, that's your alone time. You're gonna enjoy just being on your phone, driving to wherever you're going or whatever the case
Being
is.
on your phone and driving is crazy.
Hey, yo, everybody does it.
Yeah.
But it's that's your alone time, so you're gonna enjoy your alone time. So I feel like no matter how long you've been with somebody, you do need your alone time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's not
need your
alone
own
time.
personality.
It's not alone time with your girls or your boys. It's no, you're alone.
Alone time.
You're
A lot of
alone.
these men be having their shit schedules as their alone time.
Yeah, I'm gonna be here for 30 minutes.
Mine's like getting in the garage and just sitting in my car and just being on my phone.
You know,
That-
and that's
that
nice.
little bit of 10, 15
Yeah,
minutes.
exactly.
Yeah.
But all right, so
Ladies, Lauren, Lo, you've been here before. How did you feel about today's episode? And I mean, I'll ask you, but I know you're gonna say, yeah, hell yeah. Would you come back again?
I feel like I'm your favorite guest. Like, we have to stop meeting like this.
She has her own.
I do.
board, too.
I think it's good just because you're, no offense, but older, so you
Yeah.
bring a lot more wisdom to some of these younger
Mature.
girls. Yeah,
Mature.
to these younger girls.
Look back on.
Yeah,
I switched it at around
Yeah.
9ish.
yeah.
Cute.
That's cool.
Period. I love that, Roger.
Double single on the rocks. All right, what about you?
I had a good time. Honestly, I really liked his conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to hear yours too. And one of the things I realized is that we've all gone through things, and it's like different testimonies. So it's nice to see your point of view and his and yours too.
Thank you.
I had a
appreciate
good time.
it. Yeah, Philip Anthony for sure is gonna come on again. Just he's like, the older you are, you do bring wisdom and just more clarity on a bunch of just.
And
different
it was nice
situations.
that, like, he took accountability, that he was the problem.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of men will not say that. A lot of men will not say I was a problem.
It's hard. I would say, kind of like he alluded to, the men's frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until about 25. I'd probably say at 25 is when I was actually like, you know what, I did fuck up doing this. I did fuck up doing that. It was my fault why this didn't work out. It was my fault on this. And I could say it every single time. It's my fault as to why any of these other situationships or relationships never went into the next step, it's because I didn't want it to.
But you'll
Yeah.
never let them know that.
No, I mean, no, I have.
I think it's
you can see
okay,
it.
and
You
you're
can see it.
human, and
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, like we're human, we make mistakes,
Yeah.
and it's
I
okay.
think that's
Forgive
the cool
yourself.
part about it.
I think
is-
as you get older, you start to like let your guard down more and more of just like you either take it or you don't. I
Yeah.
don't give a fuck because
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
love me.
my day is gonna go on with or without you, babe.
Hey, I'll just say this because we'll leave off on this. As you get older, you really don't give a fuck because there's old dudes at the gym walking around naked. Obviously in the men's dressing room and stuff, and they're just
I'm
walking
so
around
glad.
junk all out, everything, and it's just because they don't care no more.
No, you
They're
know,
not
yeah.
ashamed of if it is small or if it is big. They're just like, man, I'm old, bro. I don't
Listen,
care. Like,
they're
you just
they're
don't
the
give a
ones
damn.
on the Mexico beach at the nude
Yeah, yeah.
resort,
Tiny little
and
yeah.
they don't give a shit. I have passed by, and I'm just like, oh my god, I could
can't
never.
believe you do
They
that.
are so. They're doing volleyball.
Yeah, they just be out there doing
Dicks
it.
just swinging,
I gotta have something around there. You can't have no little
Nah.
sand fall into the pee hole. That's gonna
and their
hurt.
babies are just like, go, go.
I aspire
Titties
to
just
be
like,
that
No,
in
hey,
love
those
with
are the people
myself.
in open relationships.
and they don't give a fuck. And I'm just like, I don't say anything.
All right, guys. With that, we appreciate you guys for tuning in another episode of Open Discussions and a tad bit of Salt on the Rocks. We will see you guys. Single on
Single on the
Salt.
Single on the Rocks.
Salt
we will
on the
see you
rocks.
guys on the next episode of Open Discussions.